I'm excited. I'm looking forward to our presenters today.
What do you mean? You just had this presentation the other day.
Okay, well, I did, but everybody, the rest of the individual did. It's always wonderful to see you. You know that. So,
Well, I appreciate that because it's wonderful to be seen. Um, got it. Should we just kick off?
no, you're at
And wait for you.
9:40. Just you got to do. We have to do a little business at 9:40. It'll be all you.
Oh, no, at
Okay.
40. Oh, this is going to be a short conversation. Don't we have the
Why?
don't we have the 10 o'clock with the chancellor and team?
9:40. You got 20 minutes till 10 o'clock. You
Oh,
need a
okay,
little.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
9:40 to 10. Yeah, 20
okay.
minutes. Yeah,
No
yeah, yeah.
problem.
No, no. We're not short. We're not short-sighted
Randy,
you. No, no. This is very important.
I'm not going to get a good morning from Randy. What's going on, Randy?
I was being polite and letting everybody speak first. How are you?
Good, good. Good to see
Always
you.
a
Good to
pleasure to
see you.
see you.
Pleasure is mine. Pleasure is mine.
All right.
Josephine not saying hello over there. Josephine's not speaking this morning. I don't know what's going
Good
on.
morning. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
All right. Everyone can see that. So we're going to officially start. Good morning, everyone. This is the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. Welcome, members. So today is Thursday, November 9th. Our virtual meeting starts at 9:30. This is the current new board as of last month. So since we have a new board, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Shirley Aubin. I'm one of the co-chairs, and I sit on Chancellor Parent Advisory Council as Queens High School President's Council. I'm going to pass it to my co-chair, Randy.
Good morning, everyone. So, as Shirley said, I am co-chair with her on CPAC. I represent District 21 President's Council. And
Thank you.
yeah.
I don't see her on yet, but our first vice chairperson is Jazzy Rivera. She represents District 32. I'm now going to pass it to Ms. Brown. Is she able to talk? I know she's on. Jimmy? All right, I'm gonna make this go faster. So our second vice chairperson is Jimmy Brown, and she sits here representing District 3. Then we have our recording secretary. I saw Adriana. Are you here? Are you able to
Good morning.
speak?
Yes, thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adriana from District 28. Happy to be the recording secretary for this year.
Awesome. Thank you. Randy, is 30 here? Is Rebecca's here? So our treasurer is Rebecca Staley. We call her Becca, and she's representing District 30 on CPAC. Then we have our corresponding secretary. Is Erica here? Well, Erica Newsom Rodriguez. She represents District 8. Our live stream coordinator is not here today, and we haven't chosen a parliamentarian. So everyone should have received this CPAC meeting procedure and standing rules. If not, you can always refer back to, it's also on the website, or email us for the standing rules. So we're just going to summarize this real quick. We're going to ask everyone to be courteous, respectful, and professional. Please wait to be recognized before speaking, either using the hands raised function or put it in the chat. If you physically raise your hand, I may or may not see, but one of the board members might let me know that someone has their physical hand up. We're going to ask, it's okay to disagree in these spaces, just be amicable about it. And one of the key things is 2 minutes or less for your question or concerns. And we're going to remind everyone it's not a back and forth dialogue. Once you made your comment or question, if you have additional or follow-up, we're going to ask you to raise your hands again. Now, if someone who raised their hands and haven't spoken, and the others have spoken before, we're going to call on that individual first. So we want to hear from everyone. And we're going to ask not to have any side conversations in the chat. So at this time, We're going to do roll call. If you haven't done so, please put your borough or district in front of your name. I'm going to ask our guests if they could to put their department name or New York City Public Schools in front, so we know at a glance who's on our platform. So we're going to start with District 1. District 1. District 2. Also, there'll be an attendance sheet in the chat. So we're going to ask everyone to also fill that out. That is our record keeping to know you are here in attendance. And this includes everyone on the platform. Please ask you fill out the attendance form. District 3. I know Jimmy's here. District 4. District 5.
Here.
Hi, good morning, Aisha.
Good
District
morning.
6. Good morning. District 6, we have you.
Caroline Jose is present.
Thank
Represent
you.
for Police Council.
Awesome. District 7. Okay. Sorry. Treasurer is having tech issues and will jump on. District 7. District 8. District 9. District 10. Randy, you help me out. District 11.
No,
District 12.
no,
District 13. Okay. District 14.
no.
No, we'll let them get a chance to answer. District 15.
Good morning, 15 here.
All right, Elton, how are you? District 16. I saw somebody, okay, district, maybe they're 19. District 17. District 18. District 19. District 19. District 21.
Present.
District 22.
I'm here.
District 23. $24. 25.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. There's a few of you who have not have your district in front. Could you please put your district? Ms. Brooks, what district you are? Because I think I've called you.
16, sorry.
Yeah,
This is my first
16
time
is-
joining this meeting, so I'm just learning the ins and outs.
Thank you.
All right, sorry.
No problem, no problem. So district 16 is here. District 25.
Yes, good morning, present.
Good morning, Rachel. District 26.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning, Adriana. District 27. 27. Okay. District 28.
Good morning again, everyone.
Thank you. District 29. District 30. One hand, she's having tech issue. District 31.
Good morning, present.
Good morning, Melissa. Thank you. District 32? Not yet, Randy. District 75? I thought I saw
Present.
Veronica's.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brooklyn High Schools? So no. Bronx High Schools? Manhattan High School?
Good morning, Rosa Diaz here. Thank you.
Good morning, Rosa. Thank you. Queens High Schools is myself. We're present. I'm present. Staten Island High School?
Present.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So at this time, we're going to pause on going over minutes in adult, I'm just going to go over the agenda real quick, and then we're going to pass it to Chief Rapperset. So this morning, we're going to finish the rest of our business and updates towards the end. We're going to hear from Chief Mark Rapperset about 8:12. We have officers enrollment. I'm being told that the chancellor is going to come at 10, and I'm assuming they're swapping. They'll show up at 11. Division DIT is on 10:20. 10:40 is DC Quintana teaching of learning. New York City, the chancellor is going to be at 10. Like I said, we're going to have someone from the Barclays Center talk about a fundraising opportunity. We're going to receive Title I COPS updates from the state, and then we'll have FACE updates. And if we have not finished our CPAC business in between, we'll do it at the end. So I'm going to now, right. We got a lot of stuff. Oh, here we go. So we have Mark Rapperset, who's the Chief of Safety and Prevention Partnership, Department of Office of Student Youth Development, which is a division of OSYD. And we're going to turn the floor over to Mr. Chief Rapperset at this time. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for that calling. The background was amazing. Your background right now is pretty amazing. I don't know how you do that, but we'll talk about that another time. As stated, my name is Mark Ramperson, and I'm the Chief of Safety and Prevention Partnerships for New York City Public Schools. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here before you. I am going to make an attempt to share my screen so that I can do a quick presentation on Chancellor's Regulation 412, which is Safety and Security in Schools. This regulation is currently still open for public comment. So this is sort of an engagement, just bringing you guys up to speed with what the regulation is and what the work is that we've done so far, giving you an opportunity to still take advantage of the comment period. So if there are any concerns, questions, inquiries that you have or things that you want to see changed in this regulation, we are accepting comment on. Today I'm joined by Dr. Jay Finling, Director of Safety and Emergency Readiness, as well as Judy Nathan from our legal office, who will talk at the end. So I am going to try to maximize my 15 minutes before the chancellor arrives and try and get through this presentation as quick as I can. I'm going to start by trying to share my screen here. You guys tell me when and if you can see it.
We can see your
You are able
screen.
to see it. Okay, great. Okay, so want to really give you guys a real overview of, am I not seeing it?
No.
Okay, hang on one
No,
second. Something just went right. Hold on. Technology.
Mm-hmm.
Am I back?
Yes.
Am I in presentation?
No, there you go.
Presentation. Okay, Chancellor's Regulation 412, which is safety and security in schools, and basically want to give you guys a real overview of what we're doing. This proposed amendment to this regulation hasn't been updated since 2006, and even though this regulation is really reflecting 15 years of the work that has already been happening in schools, but what we're doing is really codifying the work through this regulation and outlining the changes. These changes really outline the agreement between the NYPD School Safety Division and New York City Public Schools that was sort of codified in 2019. So these actions that we talk about now are things that have been happening in our schools, but we're really just memorializing it through this regulation. So this presentation will talk about key provisions in the regulation that haven't changed. Many of these things, as I stated, are already happening in our schools. I'm going to attempt to enlighten you about the changes that are proposed. And as I shared earlier, the public comment period is still open. And then hopefully we will have an opportunity to hear from you during that public comment piece. So the first section, just as an introduction, this sets forth our goal to ensure that we're creating a positive learning environment for our kids, our staff, and all visitors in our schools, and that responsibility being that of all of our stakeholders in our schools. Set forth the respective role of our school safety agents. Their roles are clearly and defined. While they collaborate with our school staff to ensure that we have a safe and orderly environment, there are some limitations and expectations to the role of our school safety agents who are helping us to maintain a positive school culture and ensuring that our climate is safe and supportive for kids. So our school safety agents clearly defined role. They are responsible for visitor control procedures. They are the only people who can conduct a search of any individual in our school. They run the scanning system and all issues of criminal matters. And I want to be clear, criminal matters is that the role of a school safety agents who are certified peace officers, and they support the schools in other areas that they see a need for. Our school staff are the only people who can deal with student discipline. And I want to be very clear when we say discipline, we're not talking about arrests, we're talking about suspensions, interventions such as guidance interventions, parent outreach, so forth and so on. And our school staff must ensure that our students and their parents are notified whenever there's any interaction between a school safety agent, a NYPD personnel, or either external agency partners. We are required to ensure that we keep parents fully abreast of what's happening with young people. And schools must have an active and functioning building response team. It's important that we codify that information in this regulation. This is the safety regulation. We need to reiterate to our schools how important it is to have a team in place. And this is really, we added in section 2 the importance of notifying the principal anytime 911 is contacted and notifying the parent when 911 is contacted. Right now, anybody can call 911, and many times the 911 call is made, and the principal is not apprised of that call. We're just making sure that we are in the know of all things that are happening in our schools, and we're reminding principals of the importance of contacting parents anytime 911 is called, regardless to what the purpose is. Updating information about how we proceed if a student needs to be transported to the hospital. It's important that we codify in this regulation as well as others. There are certain conditions by which you can call 911 and the student is transported. We wanted to reiterate to our schools that those reasons being outlined should not ever include calling 911 for disciplinary, and we'll talk more about that shortly. This section is emphasizing our reporting requirements, reminding schools that they have to document all incidents that occur in our schools. And regardless to whether or not they are school related, if a principal is informed of an incident involving our students, we want to make sure that we document the notifications made to our principals. We want to make sure that we formalize the importance of using the only state-recognized system of record, which is our online occurrence reporting system, better known to most as ORS. This is the only system that our schools are allowed to use to document incidents. It is the only one that the state recognizes, and we need to ensure that we remind principals of that. And then the notification to our Emergency Information Center, which is our call takers, whenever an incident transpires in a school, the school in NYPD and others are involved. FDNY are the law enforcement agencies or external agency partners. Our schools are required to notify the Emergency Information Center. This also sets forth the role of our senior field counsel in addressing questions about confidentiality whenever there's a question that a principal should have as it relates to an external agency requesting information or an opportunity to talk to students. discusses the obligation to prepare and submit witness statements. So when something happens in our schools and we want to make sure that young people have a fair opportunity to have their issues addressed, we ask them to write a statement. And whether they are directly affected by it or a witness to it, this really speaks to that. In this section is our notification the notification requirements of which we updated in the system. It's how to handle different types of matters of criminal and non-criminal student, staff, and other employees. We reiterated to some clarity for principals in that in that respect. This includes the protocols for calling the police in response to criminal activity, not talking about the medical stuff as I did then. Additional provisions to contact the senior counsel for guidance whenever we're dealing with the NYPD. Our principals are not law enforcement, and we have field counsel available to support principals and other school staff anytime there is a need to communicate directly with law enforcement personnel, whether you called them or they responded to the school for a non-school related incident. This also sets forth the role of our principals and our school staff to address non-criminal behavior. As I shared with you earlier, only the school staff can deal with discipline for a student. School safety agents have no role in that respect. And additional provisions that 911 may not be employed as a disciplinary response to our students' behavior, to non-criminal or student behavior as a whole. Right, so we reiterated some of these things and reminded our schools of the importance of. And this really talks about additional provisions that the principal may consult with the precinct supervisor or the borough safety director before a student is arrested. If we're not clear and imminent danger doesn't apply, there is an opportunity for us to stop and have a conversation about the student's actions before the NYPD or school safety agents administer an arrest. Added provisions about the arrest of a student off school ground. For every opportunity that we can, we are hoping that we can have these kind of interactions, especially when they don't occur at a school, to take place off a school ground. And we added provisions to ensure that if an arrest is taking place in a school, it takes place in a private location and not in the presence of a young person's peers. And wherever possible, we want to ensure that we can limit the use of restraints. Obviously, we can't dictate that to the NYPD in school safety, but we want to ensure that principals are taking every opportunity to discuss with school safety and NYPD the option of taking a student out if they need to without restraints, as long as it doesn't present a danger for anybody. Questioning students, we wanted to make sure that we were ensuring that our students were treated with the utmost respect and that the parent is included and notified whenever there's a possibility of a student being questioned to every extent possible. But if a parent we're not able to contact the principal, we have some provisions and guidance for principals as to what they do. Explaining when when the police can question a student about a non-school related incident and the steps that a school needs to follow to ensure that we are not violating the rights of a young person. This includes the preference to do so outside of school and not during the school time. We can't control what happens off school property, and we are reminding principals to have the police department do that at every opportunity that they can, especially if it has nothing to do with the school. We included details about the questioning of school staff so that there is clear clarity. And this includes the role of our senior counsel once again. They're available if principals have questions about what that process should look like. We added provisions about Miranda warnings for students who are considered suspects. And we did hear from other stakeholders who recommended that we ensure that there is a person who speaks the language present for those students who are English language learners. And it's not their first language. The child abuse investigation process, we've added some provisions in there on points of clarity in its regulation about that as well. In the vouchering of, as a reminder to our schools, we are reminding them that under no circumstances does school staff handle or confiscate prohibited items such as weapons and contraband such as drugs. That is the sole responsibility of the NYPD and the school safety agents, and under no circumstances does any of this stuff remain in the care of our schools. And we deleted the whole section that discusses cell phones in schools. So these are some of the changes that we made as it relates to feedback that we got through a public comment. We added a link to the MOU. We added a link to the MOU between the police department and New York City Public Schools. We added examples of non-criminal misconduct, so there's a clear understanding of what we refer to when we say that. We added that crime that poses a danger to students and staff or school community must be reported to the principal or police if imminent danger exists. Added that the principal can contact the senior field counsel if they need guidance about how to proceed. Noted that non-criminal behavior is to be reported to the principal so school staff may take the appropriate action. We added a provision in place for parents so that if a parent wants to be present when the NYPD investigation takes place, the parent has a right to do so as long as they can get to the school in a timely fashion. And we added that the Miranda warning, which the NYPD solely agrees to in our MOU. So it's just information taken from the MOU and added into this regulation. Additional comments may be submitted until December 19th, 2023. As we will be moving the regulation to December 20th, it was on deck for November. We've extended that time to December PEP calendar, and you can submit your recommended changes to this regulation at the email outlined on the screen. Regulations-412@schools.nycd.gov, or you can call 212-347-5214. We encourage comments be made by December 1st to afford us the time to review the comments and make any necessary changes before the PEP meeting. Right, Shirley, so I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I guess, well, we only have a couple of minutes here to hear recommended comments before we remind folks that that comment period is open. Again, this is not a question and answer period. This is really just a comment period, but we appreciate the opportunity to be before you and the rest of the team this morning.
All right, thank you so much. So, chat is disabled on YouTube because we don't have a live stream coordinator. That was one of the requirements. If there's no live stream coordinator, we'll still live stream, but the chat is not open because there's no one to moderate the chat for us. Adriana has a question, not a question, because this is a comment period, like he said. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. We're taking a list of the questions and we can forward it for answer. So District 28, you have your hands up.
Thank you. I have it phrased as a question just in my notes, so I'm going to just take the question bit off of that. Hi, Mark. Thank you for being with us this morning. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the importance of involving or informing parents of the potential effects of the update to Chancellor's Regulation A412. I have a question, but it is going to be just a comment regarding the proposed edits, as there is a great and growing concern that these edits or updates to the Chancellor's Regulation will actually decrease the likelihood of parents being present during the questioning of their student, even in the instances where a student's disability impacts their ability to communicate. I understand that this is not a question answer time, but I would like parents to be aware of the things that are being said between the lines. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I see a whole bunch of Chancellor's team. Kanina, DC Lloyd, is Chancellor coming? I see Dan Weisberg too. First Deputy Chancellor is here with us. Are we going to start? Or are we waiting for the Chancellor? Because I know that he wanted to come on at 10.
I anticipate that he will join momentarily. But we are all here to get, our entire team is here to get started. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Hold on a second. Thank you, Chief Represent, for taking the time. I just want everyone to know he squeezed us in, right? Squeezed us in for us because we know this is very important, and pay attention to the comment periods and public engagement. There will be more public engagement session regarding the A12. So, DC Lloyd, you have the floor now.
Well, good morning, everyone. I will, it's a pleasure to be in conversation with you today. Shirley and Randy, it was great to catch up with you this week and to talk about what's going on at the council. We are already in November, and I wanted to just wish everyone an early happy Thanksgiving for all of you who celebrate. I do see that the Chancellor is on, and I want to turn it back over to you, Shirley, so we can get started. Spend as much time as possible in questions and feedback from the council.
Awesome. So we're not going to share the slide. We know what our fabulous Chancellor looks like. We're going to jump right in. Thank you for your leadership. So Chancellor Banks, you have the floor.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me, Shirley. I appreciate you and everybody on your team. And I want to put it right back to you and the team. We only get a brief amount of time here, so I really would like to hear from folks. And so I've got a number of members of my team who are with me. So why don't we just jump right in with questions that people have and want to hear about.
Awesome. There was one question that District 20 has sent ahead of time regarding dyslexia. I don't have the question in front of me. Kania, do we have that answer prepared?
Yes,
okay, go ahead. So I think
go
I
ahead,
remember.
Shirley, yes.
I think I remember what the question is. I'm not going to phrase it exactly. When is with regarding to the dyslexia program that was started? When will you have in District 20? Was specifically was the question. Some of these programs are going to happen within that district. And so, Kadita, I guess you can answer that.
Actually, I'm gonna pitch it to Deputy Chancellor Quintana, who I shared the question with and is prepared to be in conversation with you.
All right, awesome.
No, we can't hear you yet, Q.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. It was off mute. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Good morning, everybody. Shirley, great to see you again. Excited to be here because we can talk a little bit more about topic that we love, right? So talking about literacy. We are actually really excited that in January, we're going to be launching district literacy hubs. So 30 middle schools and 20 high schools will have district literacy hubs. And so we're working with superintendents who will host intervisitations to support the scaling of practices. But these district literacy hubs are so that we can establish proof points on what works and scale evidence-based reading aligned practices in our secondary schools. They will also include those practices not just in a reading intervention class, but across content areas, which is really, really important in the secondary grades. And so you'll have cross-content literacy instruction and intervention support, including those students who need intensive intervention. So we've heard a lot from parents about what if my child has a dyslexic profile. These sites will be able to meet the needs of most of our students with dyslexic profiles. And so any student who has word reading difficulty, we're training teachers to intervene and principals to program those supports, and my team will support the assessment of students. We are also planning to expand what some more intensive programs may look like, but that's not in place yet. As you all know, we're a very, very large system, and we want to make sure that whatever we're establishing works. And so we're on our way. And at some point, we'll be able to meet the needs of all of our young learners who need reading support within their local districts. So this is one of those pieces. So we'll be expanding to 30 middle schools and 20 high schools. And for any specific district who has questions or is wondering, we're always happy to meet with folks from the district to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. I know District 20 had also asked us about some of our autism spectrum disorder specialized programs, and they had asked about some other opportunities as well. And so we'd be happy to connect directly, Shirley, if you want to broker that, or we can reach out to the district directly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of
We'll
course.
talk with our members. Adriana, you have your hands up. District 28. There's two of you. District 28.
Yes, thank you, Shirley. My question is for Chancellor Banks, but I'm sure that it'll be answered by the best person to answer it. So the DOE and SCA, which is the School Construction Authority for everyone listening at home, released a new proposed 5-year capital plan for fiscal year 2025 through 29 last week. I'd like to understand why the DOE and SCA want to or plan to cut $2 billion from the new proposed capital plan when we know that we will need more schools to lower class size in accordance with state law. And I'd like to know why the DOE and SCA will no longer identify 77% of seats in the plan according to district, borough, or grade level. According to the DOE and SCA, from now on, projects will be officially listed in the plan following the identification of a suitable site and the commencement of the school facilities design process, which is a major change from how things have been done previously. I can put the question in the chat for everyone else, but I would really appreciate an answer as to why that cut is being made.
Dan, you want to talk about it? There's going to be a major fiscal challenge across the board, not only SCA, everywhere. This is not a necessarily DOE decision, the DOE to say, we're going to cut this, that, or the other. These are challenges that are coming across the city. The mayor's been talking about all the major challenges that the city is facing fiscally and that every agency is going to see. Dan, you want to speak to us some more particulars on it?
Yes, sir, Chancellor, and thank you, President Alicea, for the question. Yeah, I mean, so the size, the total size of the capital plan is really determined by the mayor, the budget director, in terms of what is available. And as the chancellor says, and as the mayor's talked about repeatedly, we have real challenges both on the expense budget side, but also on the capital spending side. So that really determines the size of it. I would just say, as a process, I'm sure you know very well, but everybody on the call may not know. This is the initial plan, but now SCA goes through extensive engagement with each CEC, and gets input, and so we fully expect SCA will get that input and respond to that input. In terms of the change about, I don't think we have anybody from SCA on here. The change about why at this point in the process they are not identifying number of seats by district. I don't have that, Emma. I don't know if you have an answer for that one, but we'll certainly get that to you. Why they made a change in process, and finally, you're absolutely right about the existence of the class size law. That is something we are very focused on. Our Deputy Chancellor of Finance and Operations, Emma Vadera, is leading a class size working group, which is grappling with both the implementation issues on the expense side, but also on the capital side. Some of you may well be serving on that working group, which we appreciate. That is, as the class size working group is grappling with, lowering class size, the chancellor said, is a great goal. We would love to be able to do it. On the capital side, SCA has estimated the cost of full compliance would be in the neighborhood of $30 billion, which is well more than the current capital plan, the proposed capital plan. So that is something we're going to have to work through about how we use limited resources in the most effective way.
Thank you so much. District 20 is asking, what's the plan? Do you have implementation plans for dyslexia for elementary schools as well?
I was just writing that in the chat. So is that Josephine's question, I think, right? So we have structured literacy sites already in Manhattan, the Bronx, and 2 in Brooklyn. We've also been training centrally funded special education interventionists. We have over 900 of those already in schools, speech teachers or other school-based interventionists as well. So they've been receiving Orton Gillingham training, Wilson reading training, and other types of training to provide intensive intervention supports. We added 115 additional interventionists to support phase 1 schools this year. And at the district, there is an implementation specialist for all phase 1 schools too, because we know that much of the support will happen through the curricular shifts and the shifts in teacher practice. So there are a ton of resources that are available. And what we recommend is that anytime someone has a question about their particular child, they first connect with the principal. And if the principal can't answer that question, the superintendent's team absolutely can. And we're supporting them. So even if they aren't quite sure yet, they reach out to us and let us know what a profile is or what a question is, and we come in and we support them. But we want to make sure that as much as possible, we're keeping that at a district level so that it really becomes about the community supporting the community and building those structures and those supports within for sustainability.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Or any other questions for the chancellor or his team? This is the opportunity here we have to take advantage. Or how about this? Okay, Adriana, before I go to Adriana, any suggestions, right? Advisory comments on anything. If you don't have questions, how about help? We're supposed to advise. So this is your opportunity as well to share your comments and suggestions on improving the process, with which the main idea is to improve the academic experience for our scholars, our children. So Adriana, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask a second question. I really appreciate it. My second question here is, why is state testing moving to virtual platforms, and / when we know that we're unable to provide equitable access to technology on a consistent basis, meaning in school and at home, for our students? I don't understand how we're able to justify that when we know that we don't have tech equity in the city. Thank you.
I can, Chancellor, I can jump in if you'd like.
Yeah. Good. Is Dr. Rux with us today, though?
I don't know if Dr. Rux
Right. But let's start. Yeah.
is on, but others may jump in. With regard to testing, moving to digital testing, that's a state decision. That's statewide. That's not something that we get to decide when it comes to the state standardized tests, the annual tests, and ELA and math. That has been a change that's been forecast for several years now. That of course happens in school, and for this past year, our DIT department, along with Department of Division of School Leadership, worked very hard together. We did not hear about, although of course we always want to hear from you about a lot of access issues in last spring's round of testing in school. But the larger issue, of course, around tech equity and making sure that all of our students have the same access at home is something that we are constantly tackling. The pandemic and the stimulus funding that went along with it allowed us to make some strides, but we are now dealing with those funds drying up and having to figure out a sustainable way to make sure our kids all have devices that they can use that are enabled, web enabled, et cetera, LT enabled when they're at home. I don't know, Emma or others, if you want to jump in on that.
I mean, I was just going to add, Dan, I'm glad that you started with, this is a state decision. And yes, I see in the chat, some students actually don't do well on the virtual platform. And that's going to be, something that we need to make sure that we're prepared to support. The computer-based testing will happen in the school day. And so we'll be careful about how we help structure the proctoring and things like that. The idea that the state has put forward, or what they're suggesting rather, is that it gives them greater flexibility with the testing schedule. And so it allows them to have a singular multiple week window. And right now they're starting only with grades 5 and 8. So the grades 3 through 8 math, elementary and intermediate science tests, and then in spring 2024, grades 5 through 8 for ELA, math, and science. So the other grades can still request paper testing. So we can provide all of those details so that you actually know which ones are going to be taking, but they're not all moving to computer-based testing right now. You know, it's something that we're talking to the state about, and we do have conversations with them. So we'll certainly bring up your concerns.
Thank you. So a question going back to small class, with this the class size law in place, why is there a conversation being had to merge small schools?
Well, the merging of small schools is not really connected to the class size issue. We got some schools which are really, really small. When small schools were created, you know, I ran small schools, but there was a formula for what a small school was supposed to be. And it was really from like 450 to about 600 kids. It's considered a small school. We've got schools now that have 80 kids. And yet those schools have, we pay to hire a principal and an executive assistant in the office and a whole ecosystem around a school, which is extremely small. We've got dozens and dozens of schools that literally have 105 kids in the whole school. And we don't think that we're going to be able to continue to sustain that. But we're not going to consolidate any school where it creates a problem of class size. You know, many of these schools are sharing space already with other schools, so they're using the classes that they're using. But we think we can find some greater efficiencies in the dollars that, in fact, we are using and paying for. That I think ultimately will, and we think we'll be able to create better programming options for our kids. You know, you can't offer all the programs that kids should really get when the school is so small. It means their budget is really small. And so we're looking at it. Haven't made definitive answers on this yet, but we are starting to engage communities around that. But Shirley, wanted to thank you and thank the your members of your team for the opportunity to chat with you a little bit today. I know my team has got to jump. I did want to offer a God bless and rest in peace to Karen Wong, passed away after about. She had been a strong advocate for kids for a long, long time and for parents and families, and will be surely sorely missed. So certainly wanted to offer our condolences to her family and rest in peace to her. And thank you to all of you. We're going to see you all again real soon.
And thank you, Chancellor Banks, DC Weisberg, Emma Verhedera. I'm killing your name, Emma. I see a budget and Q, but I want to say thank the Chancellor again. Give me a second, Emma, and I'll let you speak. Thank you. I know the Chancellor got to go. So thank you for so much. And we really appreciate having your team members come back later in our last month's meeting to address issues and concerns that we had. That was greatly appreciated. And you'll see, or your team will tell you, we came up with really good positive partnership and collaborations, which we would like to, make sure it continues that way. But we appreciate everyone coming here to really address the concerns of the New York City. And Emma, I'm going to give you the floor right back. No, go ahead, Emma, talk.
Thank you. Sorry. By the way, don't worry. Everybody butchered my name, including my mother, who chose not to take it for that reason. First of all, on that last point, I'm going to hop off before the DAIT team hops on, but Randy, just want to say thank you for your work with them on the email issues and appreciate the ongoing work together to find a good solution there. Just wanted to jump in on a few of these that have come up along the way before I do hop. I just want to say, in addition to what the Chancellor said about smaller classes, it might be interesting to folks that the class size working group themselves have been looking at whether merging schools is actually a good idea as part of complying with the law, because the law is going to require us to be as smart as possible with the dollars we have while maintaining opportunities for kids. I don't know if that will be in their final recommendations, but it's actually something they themselves have thought about as we try to figure out the best way to make sure we have all the small classes we need, but also maintain other additional opportunities for kids with our dollars. So they're actually making the connection in that way. On the LTE service question that was in the chat, yes, very much appreciate this. This goes into the category of things First Deputy mentioned, where we got one-time money during stimulus for devices and for LTE service, and the money is going away. For LTE service, it should have been turned back on when students were using devices through the end of December. We were able to work with the vendor to be able to do that. So I'm going to have to hop, but Adrienne, if you want to put in the chat or just send me an email on where that's not happening, I will follow up specifically on that. But that is just a short-term extension, and the dollars are going away there. And then and we're going to have to work with schools on that. So one of the things we are doing is working with schools to figure out how we can have a contract in place for them to provide service for students as well. So it's still something the system is able to provide. And then the last thing is on budget cuts. On budget cuts question, I saw a budget cuts question in here. So at the beginning of the year, schools didn't see cuts due to enrollment losses. So even if a school did see an enrollment decline, we used our stimulus dollars to hold the school harmless at the beginning of the year. As the chancellor shared a couple of weeks ago, at the mid-year, we're not going to be able to do that anymore because same reason, the temporary dollars. And we are working right now to figure out what that will look like. But what that does mean is where schools have not necessarily reductions over last year, but lower than projected enrollment, we will be working with them to align their budgets with their enrollment. We know if where schools have higher than projected enrollment, we will be giving them additional dollars to serve those additional students. We know there will be more schools in that category. We have our preliminary numbers, and there's more schools that are going to be seeing increases than decreases. There will be more additional dollars flowing in, but that is something we're going to need to work through with schools now this year. So that's it, Shirley. Thanks for letting me jump in on that, and happy to do additional follow-ups, of course.
All right, thank you, Emma. We appreciate that. That's what teamwork is, and we appreciate you addressing some of the questions in the chat. And I see more is popping up, but we're going to move on to the next agenda item. We'll take note of those questions. I'm going to share my slide. I'm going back to the slides now. We're on schedule. And next up is DIIT. We have Helen Barahal and Anne-Marie Dult. This is her third time coming on our platform. We thank them. But before we give, I'm trying to stop sharing. Before we give them the floor, I'm going to have Randy speak and give them a nice introduction as well.
Okay. So regarding, everyone wants to know about the parent leader emails. So just wanted to share with all of you that Shirley and I had our own concerns, but we also listened to the concerns of our membership and parent leaders across the city regarding the changes to the parent leader emails. And we lifted them to Executive Director Christina Melendez and Deputy Chancellor Kanita Lloyd, which gave us the opportunity to meet with DIIT. So first, we want to thank you both for actively listening and being so responsive to the needs of our parent leaders and supporting and involving CPAC to collaborate with you and other New York City public school staff. I would also like to thank Anne-Marie because, like Shirley said, this is the third time she's here to present to our membership, and she keeps showing up to be supportive of our needs. So thank you, Anne-Marie. This morning, Anne-Marie and Helen are going to share how Shirley and I collaborated with them and Christina and Kanita to come to a mutual solution for both sides to support all parent leaders with emails so that the communication continues and we move forward in a positive light. So I think everyone will agree that what we came up with would work best for everyone involved. And Anne-Marie and Helen, after they're done presenting, will open the floor for more input and ideas from our membership. So Anne-Marie and Helen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Go ahead, Helen, you can start.
I just wanted to first apologize because I'm having video issues, so my camera is off, which is ironic being that I work in DIT. I know you're all thinking that I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. I wanted to just start by thanking Shirley and Randy and DC Lloyd, Christina, and everybody on the team because the few times that we met, we really came together in the spirit of collaboration, and that's how we like to do things. So we actually came together and listened and like shared our concerns with each other and kind of went back and forth, and didn't agree. And then out of that conversation came a brand new idea that none of us had thought of before. And I think it only came because when you bring the right people together in a true spirit of collaboration, the right solutions are going to emerge. And so that's what we wanted to share with you today. I'll say at a high level, and then maybe Anne Marie, who again you've heard from a few times, can like share a little more detail. But when Randy and Shirley shared that there was going to be confusion with like all these different email addresses and having to like have a shared approach when you are running a parent body, you need to be collaborative with each other. And how's that going to work with all these various email addresses? We really kind of came to this idea of having some shared inboxes. So we took that idea back to the team. It is technically possible. So we are going to work towards that. Additionally, we stretched out the timeline so that we could better accommodate the needs of different individual districts and schools. So we are doing that as well. Again, all of this just came out of us just talking to each other and listening. It sounds simple, but I think it's something we probably all don't get enough of. Anyone else kind of feel free to jump in. Anne Marie, do you want to jump in with anything else?
Yeah, first of all, just thank you for having me back, Randy and Shirley. Thank you for your kind words. I'm so excited that we were able to come, we were able to have time to talk to each other and work this out, like Helen said. I'm so grateful for everyone's input on this call and all of the family leaders, parent leaders who have contributed to this conversation. This is the only way that we're ever going to be able to be successful and collaborate. So I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to do that. And so one of the things I will say is we've come to this new idea, but we still have some stuff to work out. We still have a lot of the logistical pieces, a lot of the, what is the step-by-step process for how this is going to transfer? Because now that we've adjusted the timeline and we have this new concept of having the shared inboxes that you'll use your individual email accounts to access, there's still some fine details that we have to work out, but we're looking to as DIT, we in the back end continue to work and get this stuff set up and ready to go. We're looking like to get the transition really up and running in spring, so that you all have spring and summer to do all of the work that's needed to prepare so that you can kick off next school year with all of these new resources and new access points. So, but we will work together with all of you. We'll continue to do that, to work on exactly what is that timeline going to look like? How are we going to guide you through this? We can put FAQs together, we can put step-by-step instructions together, we can put videos together for how to help some of this stuff. So if you can tell us what are those types of things would be helpful, we will absolutely work on that. And then we will hopefully continue to come back and report on where we're at in each phase of this process so that we can keep you in the loop from start to finish. And so thank you again.
Thank you. Any questions for Anne Marie and Helen? And hold on, let me check the chat. Okay, Adriana.
Good morning, both. I have a IT related question, and I'm hoping that you two are able to or willing to answer the question now. Some folks in my district, in District 28 in Queens, were made aware of the DOE's plan to no longer issue devices to students. I'd like to understand the rationale behind that, given the push to have so many of their learning materials be digitized and only accessible through a digital platform or only accessible virtually. And I really just want to understand the rationale, the reasoning behind doing that, because if we're not issuing DOE devices to the students, then what we're saying is if you want your child to be able to access these materials at home and you don't have a computer at home, you then need to go out and purchase a device. Now, for some of us, that is an easy ask. That's an easy lift. We don't have to think too hard about doing that. And we understand that it is an investment and it's a piece of technology that's going to be used and usable for years to come. However, there are many, many, many families in this city who will have to choose between purchasing a device for their student or their child or students, right? Children, many people have multiple children, to be able to do their homework or do their classwork, do extra reading, go on to iReady, right? They're gonna have to choose between that and paying for their groceries, choose between that and paying for their light bill, choose between that and paying for their rent. I understand that there are budget cuts, right? That's what we love to talk about, is that it's the city, the budget cuts are coming from the city. I want to know what the DOE is gonna do about it, right? How is the DOE and DIIT going to make it possible for our students to continue to succeed in this way that they've been pushed into?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So there are still central devices. If schools need devices for students, there's a process to request, and principals should be aware of that process. If your school is needing devices, you can, first of all, you can always email me and I will get you right to the right person and make sure your questions are answered directly. My door is open for that. And we do still have some devices in stock centrally. When those were purchased with stimulus funds, and I think Emma was referencing stimulus funds are ending. So schools may end up having to use some of their own budget to purchase devices if students need them. I'm not aware of any plan to have parents purchase their own devices. I have not heard anything about this, but if you know of a school that is in need of devices, you can absolutely reach out to me anytime. Other folks have done it, and I can make sure that we get you the data and make sure that we resolve the situation.
Okay, thank you so much. She has additional questions, but some of these questions, this is not directed to you, Adriana, but a lot of these questions seem to be very thought out, and we asked to send the questions ahead of time so we can give you the answers, right? I know some questions might come up spontaneously, but some of these questions or issues should be sent ahead of time so the chancellor or whoever from his team can address these questions. And I'm just I'm glad that Anne-Marie was able to answer that question, because they were specific here to talk about DOE emails. They're not the actual DIT reps handling technical issues. So Adriana, you want to ask that same question that you have in the chat? Because we have anybody else before I give Adriana the floor? Okay, so Adriana has a follow-up question.
Thank you. So I would like to first speak to that part. The reason that I am hesitant to submit my questions in advance is that I did that multiple times last year, and in those instances, my questions were not answered. So that's why my questions, yes, they are very well thought out, and I take a lot of time to make sure that I'm fact checking myself. But I'm hesitant to do so because it seemed very easy to move past those questions that had been received in writing and they weren't going to be addressed during the meeting. But to the follow-up part of this question, principals have been told, right? Where I got my information from was principals who have been told that DOE devices will no longer be issued. So are they lying? Are they confused? Are they misrepresenting the situation? We don't need one-off solutions. We need to understand what is the plan, and we need transparency surrounding that.
For sure. I mean, I wouldn't say anyone is lying. We're a very large system, and I think sometimes, communication is hard because people hear things in different ways, and so I'm actually not sure what's going on. That's the first time I'm hearing something like this. So maybe if you do want to reach out and we can connect separately, we can figure it out. I don't know if I haven't heard that previously, so this is my first time hearing it.
Mhm. So we have two other questions from Bronx high schools. We were told they would stop, which you just addressed the serving the devices after June. Is that true? And are we still able to activate emails for schools that have had trouble connecting?
Servicing devices, we have service plans for devices and it varies. So it depends on how old the device is. It's like a warranty. So I think it would depend. Um, and then in terms of the emails, I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Can whoever put that say more about that?
She's asking, let's say Queens High School President's Council, we don't have access to our current DOE email. Are we able to reset it, get it activated again? Because there's quite a number of parent leaders or parent organizations, Title I.
Got it.
Are we going to, yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. That was one of the things that we talked about when we met the other day. We are aware that there are some parent leaders that don't have access to emails, and we're going to prioritize getting those people access as soon as we can. And so if there's anyone who so I'm saying for the Bronx High School President's Council, if you can send us who needs access, then we will get that set up.
Some need a password reset. Some don't even have access at all. Because I know they had stopped for Title I. They had stopped giving out the DOE emails, so they don't have one. So, all right, great, awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll absolutely prioritize. We want to make sure everybody has access.
Mm-hmm. All right, so a bunch of people need password resets, but I just gotta have to give a little kudos to DIT for my experience. For my school, needed to reset the Title I password. We also, and it was done within a timely manner. It's easier if you could get your principal, or if you have a tech, you need a what do you call it? A DOE employee or New York City Public School employee before they can reset the platform. They need to verify an authorized individual. So to make it easier when you call or do a ticket, if your school could do it, if your principal or assistant principal or the tech person assigned, if they do it, it's easier and faster to get those passwords reset. Any further Bronx High School? Last question, and then we're gonna pass it to DCQ for her presentation. Go ahead, Rima.
So I had to say it. I was trying to, but I'm more of I'm super concerned with this transition because it took me over 2 months to get access to my email, and I need it because D75 has to fill the CUC vacancies, and there's so many candidate information which absolutely shouldn't be coming to my personal email. If that took that long at the district level to gain access to that inbox, I'm concerned about all of our inboxes changing and like how well that transition is going to be. And so I just want to state that if we're having these small issues now where we can't access and the schools don't know or the districts don't know that they have to give an employee ID first to give our information, so then we can open our own ticket to then change the credentials. Like, I'm just worried. So like if we can be really, really thoughtful about the rollout and like overlap of having access to old account, new account, so we don't lose stuff, that would be really tremendously appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's actually a really, that's a point that we haven't heard before about the way to get access to open the ticket. So we'll factor that into our planning, and we'll see, and our communications. I think one of the benefits of spreading out the timeline a little bit more is we have more time to work with the schools and the FLCs and our districts to communicate all of this even more, and then walk them through step by step. So I think the more points like that you can bring up and share with us, I think the better the rollout is going to be, because we can prepare for them ahead of time. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for Anne-Marie and Helen for coming on our platform again. And again, for the great partnership and collaboration, and put at ease, come to a resolution that everyone is satisfied with. And thank you for continuing. And I'm going to thank the members also continuing asking questions and giving comments as well and suggestions, because this is what it's all about as well. So thank you so much. And now I'm going to share my slide again. And now we're going to have Deputy Chancellor of Teaching and Learning, Carolyn Quintana, to speak to us a little bit about, we had last week, we heard about the Mosaic curriculum and the Black Studies. This is her opportunity if she wants to give more, talk about New York City literacy or any part of the great work that's coming out of her division.
Thanks again, Shirley. And glad to be back. Sorry, I had to leave for a quick math meeting, but wanted to actually, I'm going to turn the mic over to Ailish Brady. So Ailish is my strategic planning, or leads our strategic planning across the Division of Teaching and Learning, and has been doing a fantastic job of managing this great big initiative that we call NYC Reads. And so wanted to make sure that Ailish had an opportunity to share with you some updates. And then obviously we'll open the floor for questions. So if you have any questions, we can continue from this morning as well. It's all very much connected. So just let me know. But Ailish, I turn the mic over to you. Thanks, Shirley.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Thumbs up?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Chair and everyone for having me this morning. So I'm going to give you all, like I said, my name is Ailish Brady. I'm the Executive Director of Strategy for Carolyn in the Division of Teaching and Learning. And I'm going to give you an overview today of New York City Reads with some of the sort of detail around how the program is rolling out. But I think, I'm also more than happy to take questions. And if I don't know the answers, to make sure that we get back to you all. So I have a sort of a deck just to walk through, just so you can all see some numbers in regards to the program. So I don't know if Katie, if you have it, or if you want me to share my screen. I'm
happy to share. I'll start right now.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Katie.
Is it up? I'm not seeing it.
No, she wasn't a co-host. I had.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Great. So now she's a co-host.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
No, not yet. There we go. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
All right. So I think we can move to the first slide. So I think, as the Chancellor said many times, our reading scores and our performance of reading is the sort of crisis of our time. I think, Katie, this is on the, I think we can just, yeah, there we go. Nationally, 54% of adults lack proficiency in literacy, and in New York, 48% of New York City students in 3 through 8 are not proficient in ELA. And as we know, oftentimes the average doesn't tell the full story. The disparities across our subgroups are really wide. 60% of Black students and 61% of Latino students are also not proficient. And part of the reason, as the Chancellor came in and examined this problem, is that we haven't been teaching reading, teaching literacy aligned to what is the best practice nationally we know, which is the science of reading. I think we can move to the next slide. So our task, the sort of what the Chancellor brought to our team, was how are we going to birth through 5 move our ELA curriculum and our ELA practice, not just our curriculum, but thinking about all of the other elements of how you teach a student to read, to be aligned to the science of reading, to do it in a phased and monitored way, and to do it in a way that is anchored in support. What we know is you can't just hand curriculum to people and expect them to know how to roll it out and to know how to relate to students and to all of the students in their classroom doing that. It requires high quality and highly intensive training. It requires communities of practice, and it includes coaching, and it includes coaching in school. So I think we can move to the next slide. So as I mentioned, this is ultimately, a birth through 12 initiative. So we are starting in pre-K. So all early childhood programs are going to be moving to the creative curriculum, along with the teaching strategies gold assessment system, in order to ensure that students are entering kindergarten with the foundation they need in order to learn how to read. This is happening over 2 school years. The vast majority of programs are going this school year, and then the rest of the programs are moving to next school year. And again, it's the professional learning and the support is inclusive of leaders, coaches, teachers, and families. And we're making sure that this is sustainable and scalable. I mean, what we don't want this to be, in pre-K or in any of our grades, is an initiative, right? This is about reteaching our teachers how to teach students how to read. So this is embedded in their practice and becomes a sustainable practice over time. So in K5, which is the next slide, I think we've skipped one. The ELA slide, Katie, is the one above this.
Yeah, I'll fix it. Sorry.
Okay, no, it's good. So in elementary schools, we are doing this in 2 phases as well, similarly to pre-K. We are doing the 15 or 16 community school districts in phase 1. And then we're doing the rest of the remaining districts in phase 2. You'll notice when the slide comes up, where we list the districts, that both District 75 is going to be listed in phase 1 and phase 2. And that's because we're trying to make sure that we are taking a considered approach in what the various needs of the students are in that classroom, are to make sure that we are thinking about who are the students who are not alternately assessed, who are the students who require standard assessment, who can tackle on grade level work.
Okay.
How can we incorporate them into the work that we're seeing that the rest of the districts are doing? And for students who are who need alternate assessment, who might need a different kind of curriculum, how can we select that thoughtfully in order to do the rollout in the rest of District 75? And in ELA, there are 3 curricular options: interreading, wit and wisdom, and expeditionary learning. That they are working through. We're also thinking about this process in high school math. So in high school math, and this is the slide you can see, it lists the districts that are in phase 1 that are doing it this school year, versus the districts that are doing it next school year. In high school math, we are rolling Algebra 1 curriculum out in 265 high schools. And we chose Algebra 1 because there's a lot of research to show that if students are completing Algebra 1 on time, it sets them up to take higher level math in high school. And it links the likelihood of them earning a bachelor's degree. And of course, that sets them up to access to all sorts of STEM careers. Again, in a similar fashion, it's not just a curriculum, it's being paired with a lot of professional learning in addition to in-school coaching. So just to give you just a little context to pull back, typically in New York City, schools have chosen their own curriculum. They could choose a curriculum out of our core options, which the New York City schools selected. In that case, they would get from the city 2 half days of PL in the summer and no coaching moving forward, right? And it was expected to be sort of a school-based, school-based responsibility to do that. In this case, we provided in the spring 3 full days of professional learning for folks who are new to the curriculum. In the spring during the school day, we provided support for subs and other elements. We did makeups in the summer, and then schools are getting in-school coaching. So every school will get at least 8 coaching visits throughout the school year. On average, they're getting 12 visits or more, depending on the need of the school and the teacher. So this is leaps and bounds more support than it's typical for a curriculum rollout in New York City. Just moving on to the next slide. So one thing we've also been thinking about in this rollout is the fact that not all students have the same level of need, and teachers who support our different students need different levels and types of support. So we're thinking specifically about our students with disabilities and our multilingual learners. How are we supporting them to tailor the curriculum and support, to identifying the different tiers of support. I know that we've talked to you before about our dyslexia, programs and our dyslexia approach, part of which includes interventions. So how are we thinking about interventions as part of this too? And are the universal screening that allows us to identify those students at risk and provide them supports. And then the next slide. So one element that I know has been talked a lot about around these curriculums is also sort of the cultural responsiveness of it. So we have been working with the curriculum providers and on our own to ensure that, there's no curriculum that you could purchase out of the box in New York City that's going to be responsive to the rich diversity of the city. So the approach we've taken is, if we're taking one of these sort of large research and science-based curricula, how do we provide supplemental materials to ensure that the teachers can then tailor the curriculum to be appropriate to the students in front of them. And through our Hidden Voices initiative, which had been mostly social studies before, we've been using that program to develop ELA specific resources so that those would be responsive, so that teachers could pull those to be responsive to the students that are in front of them. And then the next slide, I think, is speaking to families. So I can go through this, or Kanita can.
I'm here. Sorry, just wiping my nose. Hey, everybody. So really excited about, what we've been doing and how we've been thinking about this with parents. I think first it's important to just for all of you to know how closely we work with Deputy Chancellor Quintana and the teaching and learning team on the success of this initiative. And Christina and Dr. Melendez and I have really been thinking about our own experiences with our children, right? As women of color, as mothers, and some of the we've talked at length about some of the challenges certainly I've had personally, and we always aim to bring our personal experience into this work, into the conversation, together with what we hear from all of you. So we are really laying out and working not only across the agency, but across the city to create a citywide culture of literacy. And the way that we're thinking about that together with Chancellor Banks and others is that what we have noticed is that the mayor's office and a host of other agencies are excited to be in conversation with us about how they can incorporate literacy opportunities into everything that they are doing. So everyone from the first deputy mayor and director and deputy mayor strategic initiatives, the office and Department of Health and others, as well as NYPD, all want to see our students succeed and understand the importance of literacy, of a solid literacy foundation as a key to not only academic success, but success in life. So happy to share with you that it's not just the members of our team, but the mayor and his team are all deeply committed to the success of our initiative. We've worked together in the past couple of months to develop a guide that was shared with schools before September conferences. First, we did something that was educator facing to help them think about and have our input on how to prepare for parent-teacher conferences and some of the places where we see where we thought that we could add and support some of what the curriculum providers were make available for parents. Just last week, I developed together with Christina Melendez a shared letter to families in our phase 1 schools that helps them to prepare for parent-teacher conferences by sharing some of the language used in the science of reading. I think it's deeply important that we all know not just that our students are reading, but how they are learning how to read, along with a set of activities that parents, caregivers, and anyone in the family can use with their child, student, loved one to engage in a culture of literacy. And that includes visiting the library, organizing storytelling sessions, and oral communication. Building vocabulary is such a huge part of this work. And I've talked a lot about that with Deputy Chancellor Quintana, and she's identified places where even our team can learn more about the science of reading. And I think what's most important, I think as a mother, and for all of you who are caregivers and parents, to know that you have a role to play, and that despite where your student may be on a literacy level, there are wonderful opportunities that to enhance literacy, everything from calling out foods and colors at the grocery store to talking about things that they've read in schools, in their schools, to thinking about what the story means, talking about music, to engaging in debate about television shows. But they're all, literacy is all around us. And I think that's the most empowering thing that I want to share with you, is that there are so many ways to be a part of your child's literacy journey. I'm also looking forward to continuing to be in conversation with CPAC and with others about in preparation for phase 2 and how we continue to expand and empower parents and parent engagement on this important topic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for rounding that off for us and connecting it with families. I am like, there's a bunch of DOE people coming on. For admissions, I'm assuming. Questions, comments? We have claps and we have a hands up. Who's that? Adriana.
Hi again. Thank you for that, DC Lloyd. I appreciate it. It's interesting that you brought up the NYPD in this context, because we know that when we know this based on studies that have been done, data that's been collected from over 230,000 New York City public school students. We know that when there is a heavy police presence and or activity in the home neighborhoods of Black and Latina students in particular, that they are substantially less likely to graduate from high school. To be clear, they are approximately 8 percentage points less likely to graduate from high school. Also, particularly important to Black middle-aged students, especially Black middle-aged boys. Studies that have been conducted have found that NYPD presence has a notably negative effect on their state ELA and math test scores. So I just wanted to bring that here. It's not really a question, but when we're having conversations about literacy and about the inclusion of parents and families in that process, discussing or bringing into the discussion the NYPD is inherently harmful and violent for many, many members of our community, especially our Black and Latina, as well as our Indigenous students, parents, and families. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Adriana. It's something that I'll take back to the conversations that we're having with their community affairs and others, and how that might impact the literacy success of our students.
Awesome. Any further questions? While I'm looking in the chat, Q put her information or any questions regarding teaching and learning questions from that division. It's in the chat. It's in the minutes of which we didn't have it approved yet. Also for October minutes. So take a note of the emails and the links that's being placed in the chat. I'm going to, while I'm still waiting to see if anyone has any additional comments, questions. Q, I would like to ask you and Christy, for next month, you're going to be like a regular member, to talk about the special education and the great work that came out of that task force, right? So to share with everybody the takeaways that came in the start of the work of innovation regarding special education to be shared, so everyone could be more.
Love to. Let's
Okay.
to. We'd be thrilled
Okay.
to.
So for next month, for December, we're gonna have special education. Want you to come back and speak about the accomplishments in more details about the special education. On our announcement, we do have those takeaways to talk about, but that presentation and discussion of going forward it would be very helpful. Great too. Thank you. So on that note, I think I killed a little time. I don't see any further questions for yourself or the team. Thank you for everyone who came to support Miss Brady and Katie. Thank you so much for helping. And we're going to move to our next agenda item. I see Nadia. So admissions is here, but I'm going to share my slide. And we are here to talk about. Okay, the chancellor went already. Where is admissions is further up. So I don't see Sarah or Matt, but I see the team is here. We're going to listen about this fall's admissions. Who's taking the lead regarding admissions?
I think Nadia is, but I think she's on mute right now.
Okay, Nadia. Thank you, Katie.
Just 1 second. She's getting it together now.
And who needs to be made a co-host to share slides? I'm assuming you shared slides. Possibly, I'm not sure. Who's sharing slides, if there's any, so I can make them a call. Nadia, thank you. Is Nadia speaking? Because we're not hearing anything.
Nadia's calling in right now.
Okay, so you have
hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Obviously,
it's okay.
my tech fails at the last minute. All right, so folks can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we wanted to come and talk to you all about 2 topics. Shirley, do you just mind giving me a quick heads up on how much time we have?
You have till 11:30 before our
great.
next presenter.
Great, thank you. So we wanted to talk about 2 topics today that we've been talking about for a few months, but we have some more data and information about it that we'd like to just gather your perspectives on. I'm joined by a number of people on my team who will be taking notes and can help answer questions. So let's dig into the first one. All right. Okay, so our first topic is about expanding middle school admissions to make it more accessible for all students across the city. So currently, middle school is a largely district-based process in which students can apply to the middle school in the district where they're zoned or where they attend middle school. So if you live in District 15, you typically are eligible to apply only to schools in District 15. This is a different process from what exists for our elementary and high school processes. Right now, you can apply to any school in the city for elementary and almost any school in the city for high school as well. So we have a proposal to simply expand middle school admissions access to allow families to apply to any school in the city. What this means is that schools would continue to prioritize the students that are in their district and that are zoned to them, because we still think it's important for kids to have access to schools in their neighborhood. But if all those students are accommodated and there's still available space at a school, then we would allow students to be able, from outside the district, to be able to be admitted. So why do we think this is important? A, we think it gives families more choice and options it would be great if, you know, you lived in an area or lived in one area, worked in another area, and maybe a school in the area where you work is more appropriate for your child and you just want to be able to apply. Another piece of feedback we received to support this is that we sent a survey this past spring to families that applied to middle school asking whether they would be interested in something like this, and about half of the respondents said they would have actually utilized an option like this had it existed. So it seems like there's appetite for families to apply outside of their district. And we also asked principals what they thought of this idea, and about 3/4 of them supported this option. And of course, you know, we're always trying to simplify our admissions processes across all grades. So this change would also mirror other admissions processes, creating consistency across our entire system. I'm going to give a little bit of background on a pilot that we did for this. So in 2020, we changed the admissions rules in all of the Bronx, and we expanded it to borough-wide admissions, meaning that any student in the Bronx could apply to any middle school in the Bronx. Similar to what we described on the last slide, students have priority to attend within their district, but they still have the option to apply in other districts. And what we found was that a slightly higher percentage of students received one of their top choices. And while the majority of families remained within their district, an additional 300 students received an offer outside of their district, which means more families had the opportunity to get into a school that they otherwise would not have had that chance to. So we expect that we would see similar outcomes if we did this citywide. So our proposal is to really expand this pilot even further, allowing students to apply to any middle school in the city. And we think that there will be some implications in terms of overall enrollment at certain schools, but broadly, we are excited about the idea of giving families choice. So I'm going to pause here and see if folks have questions and reactions to this proposal, so that we can know which direction to take it in.
I don't see, I give them a few seconds if they're typing, but I don't see any hands up at this point. Okay, I guess not, but remember, this is your opportunity to work closely with the Chancellor's Cabinet and team on policy making, giving back feedback. So, Nadia, continue. They'll come this early still.
Yes, it's early, and you can
I'm
always
sorry.
add your questions.
I do have a question. So it says the results from the first year, and do we have like the actual results? Like it says slightly higher percentage. Is that like 0.5 higher? Is that like 5% higher? Just wondering.
Yeah, Brielle, you can go ahead. I can install a few.
And I also question about the application itself. So I know that
Rima, let Brielle answer that first question, please.
Thank you,
She was
Shirley.
about to, yeah.
Thank you. We do have the actual results. We saw about a 5% increase in families receiving an offer to their top choice or one of their top 3 choices.
And part of the reason we just talk about the first year is because it was very close to COVID taking place. And so obviously we had a lot of enrollment declines during COVID. And so it's not a very accurate picture after the first year of what the implications of this particular policy change are.
Thank you. And so Rima, you said you have, please, you have another follow-up question?
Yeah, so are there implications for like District 75 students in the application process? Because typically we do enrollment. Yeah, and just to explain to other people on the platform, like we don't typically have an admissions process. We have placement, and we get placed based on like your IEP ratio and programmatic needs. So I know that we started moving towards a model where like Nest is doing middle school applications. So I'm just wondering about not just D75, but like the specialized programs in general. What are the implications? Thank you.
Sure. So this particular policy change only applies to D1 through 32 because this rule only exists for D1 through 32. As you know, Rima, District 75 students travel across many districts and often boroughs. We do have a lot of ideas for getting the District 75 directories and application process up in my schools. And we actually recently reached out to Haylene to schedule time with CCD75 to have that conversation and share what it looks like in my schools. So I assume you will be there, and it would be great to dig into that a little bit more there. And we can always bring findings back here.
So we have two other questions in the chat from District 6. Just hold on a second. Keeps moving. I can't get it to. Okay, how does this affect elementary schools in shared building at that have one of the schools as K through 8? I'll ask that part, and then we'll. Okay, and then the second part is: are students in the non-K through 8 school able to have first choice to the K to 8 school, or will they be grouped into the citywide candidates?
Zai, do you want to take this one? I think it's slightly just like a current rules, how they work.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. So as Nadia had said earlier, we want to expand access to all schools to students citywide, but we would maintain the same priorities that we have currently, meaning in K to 8, continuing students have first priority to continue. And then there's a few different rules how those schools admit other students. Some of them have a middle school zone, some of them give priority to elementary school zones, etc. So nothing there would change. The only thing that would change is if those K to 8s had remaining seats after their like in-district students were accommodated, then out-of-district students could be accommodated, and anyone in the city could apply. Does that answer your question?
I'm assuming it does. She's kind of slow chatting. Yes, she says yes. Thank you. So Nadia, you can move on. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so our second topic is about using test scores in screened middle school and high school admissions. To provide some background, we have screened programs for both middle school and high school admissions, and these are programs that look at students' academic records and performance to determine admissions. So over the past 2 admission cycles, course grades have been the sole component used to determine admissions at these programs. So for middle school, we look at your 4 core course grades. For high school, we also look at grades, but sometimes schools have school-based assessments as well. So including for this current admission cycle and for fall 2024 school year, course grades continue to be the sole component used in screened admissions. However, we have received questions from families and parents about the option of using test scores in admissions as well. So pre-COVID, schools would tend to look at both students' grades and their state test scores, and that took a pause during COVID, and since then it hasn't returned. However, because of this question we've received, we've been doing some simulations along with some of our research partners at MIT, and we wanted to share the outcomes and gather your perspectives and questions. So what we found in collaboration with MIT is that if we were to include test scores as part of a student's application to a screened high school, we would see some significant changes in the demographics of students that are admitted to screened schools. So if you just focus on this first, oops, I don't know what just happened. If you just focus on this first column, you'll see that in fall 2023, which is this current school admissions school year, offers to screen programs went to about 24% of the offers went to Asian students, 19% to Black students, 31% to Hispanic students, 17% to white students, 8% to other, and 5% to private school students. If we were to have included state test scores, the biggest changes we would see is a significant decrease in, sorry, I don't know why it won't let me highlight, a significant decrease in screen school offers to Black and Hispanic students. And we would see a very large jump in offers to private school students. So they would have gone from 5% of offers to 18% of offers. And basically the reason for this is that private school students don't all take the state test scores, the state test, and even when they do, they're not required to provide it to us. So in a situation where we don't have a student's state test scores, their grades count for the full score that they get when they're applying to a screened high school. Because it's somewhat easier to have higher grades than it is to have a very high test score, private school students end up getting much higher rank when they're applied to screening schools. So we wanted to share this data and see if folks had reactions and thought either this is something that we should pursue further or whether you think it's concerning and we should hold back. I know this is a lot of data, so please feel free to ask clarifying questions.
While Adriana asks her question or make comments, suggestions, please type in. And I know some of you are unable to verbally speak, but I know you're typing in the chat. So we would like to hear from everybody. District 28, you have the floor.
Thank you. It's a clarifying question. So what I'm hearing you say is that the plan is to use test scores in addition to the metrics that are already used in order to increase the likelihood that Black students and Latine or Hispanic students will be seated in these screened middle schools and high schools. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
It's actually, well, to clarify, we're not proposing that we follow through on this. We just ran a simulation to see what would have happened had we used it. But the opposite is what happens had we used it. If we did use test scores, we would see a significant decrease for seats to Black and Hispanic students.
Okay, right. That's why I was confused, because that makes more sense statistically and with everything we know about testing and this city and the way that it treats Black and brown students. So thank you for clarifying that for me.
Of course, thank you.
Any other comments or clarifying questions regarding using test scores and screened middle school, high school? Okay, here we go. District 31, within public schools to use both test scores and their actual schoolwork. That's a comment, not a question. Believe the suggestion is to use both test scores and the actual academic work in the classroom and homework. And then, okay, so, and District 31 is going to clarify. You have the floor, Melissa.
Yes, thank you for that. I was clarifying, as you said, like with the private schools, they just use their schoolwork. With public schools, can't we just use as the student's portfolio as they're, going on to college, and furthermore to do just, have the test scores weighted less, and then also add upon that the actual schoolwork, because, as some students do not perform well with tests, but also see their full body of work within, on average within, the last 2 years of their elementary school from 4th grade to 5th grade, and then from middle school from 7th grade to 8th grade, to have that weighted to see their performance instead of just basing it off of, just test scores for public school kids. Would that be possible?
Yeah, so actually at the high school level, we do have some schools that choose to look at a portfolio of the student. So sometimes they're asked to provide an essay or like a video testimonial. And those schools look at those components. There's about 20 to 30 of those. And we did this simulation with a few different percentages. So like I heard you say, weigh the test scores a little bit less. And we still continue to see similar outcomes because of the fact that private school students don't have to take the test, and therefore they kind of get bumped up because of that. And so we haven't yet figured out a way to like make it fair in that way, in a way where private schools and public school students are treated the same way.
Okay, before Adriana, there's a bunch of questions. Here goes the first one. What did the simulation show about students with disability?
That's a good question. So this data is all students who were admitted to screen programs. So it includes, that's right, Priya? It includes both GE and SWD students. But we could look specifically at that. I imagine it will show something quite similar.
Okay. And then we have District 25. Would it be the same process for all, or would parents be able to choose which information to be used for enrollment screening?
Yeah, that's a great point. So technically, like right now, basically the same information is used for all schools. If we were to try to build on something where a family could say like, use my test scores, don't use my test scores, we've talked about that. I think it makes it, I think one concern that I personally have is just like, it makes it a little confusing to figure out like, should I use my test scores? Will they help me? Will they hurt me? It's a challenging calculation. And it could introduce more complexity into a process that we already get a lot of feedback about being too complex.
Okay, so there's a request, and I got you, Adriana, to come back next month, but can you just share the data with us, and we'll share it with membership about the data regarding students with disability simulation. If
that should be possible, right, Priya?
Yes, we can disaggregate the data by general education and students with disabilities.
Thank you. Adriana.
Thank you. So since this is a simulation and this is supposed to be feedback, like should we do this, should we not do this? I would like to formally present the question, why is it that removing screens is not being considered in this simulation or in conversations, right, about this? We know that there's a bigger increase in the acceptance of Black and Brown students to these high schools and to these middle schools when there are no screens. And therefore, it is a more equitable process in general. Why are we just not doing the screening? If the screening is obviously so problematic, right, that it generates, even a simulation generates numbers that are alarming, and not to poo-poo the work that was done, but the fact that the different categories of students and all of the sensitivities that go with those was not broken out is concerning, and it speaks to the overall culture and the overall approach to this specific way of doing things, of screening students for middle school and high school, right? If we are not forward thinking and forward planning to say, we know that we have a large percentage of students with disabilities and that number is only growing. We know that we need to have the simulation specifically address the needs and potential devastating impact of proceeding with plans like this on these specific groups like students with disabilities. So thank you for all of your effort and all of your work, but I think we do need to be a little bit more mindful and remove the screens. Like it's obvious. This is a simulation, right? This is AI pulling a mirror up to us and showing us how and where we're failing. We don't need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. There's another ask. Can you also give the multilingual language learners data as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we can
can.
include that.
Nadia, team, there's more information after this slide?
Nope,
No,
this
this
is
is
the
the last
last
slide.
slide.
Any other concerns or questions regarding admissions or suggestions? You've been doing a great job. So Rima, your hands are up.
I just want to out loud, because I know that, we're live streaming, people can't see our chat. So I just want to out loud say that I completely support what Adriana's saying. Screens don't make sense, and they're utilized by very specific groups of people to maintain a status quo that, quite frankly, honest, has been unfair since its inception. And we've been saying, as parents who experience it every day, that this is not fair. So it's fantastic now that AI has supported us with data that we can provide to other groups that may need that clarification, right? Like that on paper to feel and really understand what we're saying. We need to get rid of screeners. They don't work for anybody. They're not culturally responsive. They're not responsive to particular students' idiosyncrasies in learning. So you may not have a disability, but you just may not learn in that way, and you can't show your work. Your work shows your work. So use their work to be the deciding factor in this process, versus students that really just don't test well are never gonna have a shot at this. It's inequitable, and we're funneling funds that are for everyone into systems that leave people out, and we have evidence that they leave people out. So now really it's a misappropriation of our funds if we're talking about a school system that depends on it. So I just want to get us back to compliance, get us back to being appropriate for every student. Every student succeeds. We're not going to go to Title I, but Title I money and let's talk about what we're not doing and stop focusing on what keeps people out and doors in place that you have to get through to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima. Thank you so much. So Nadia, Brielle, Jai, I think I missed someone. Oh, thank you for coming, representing the Office of School Enrollment to talk about admissions and your thought process of future admissions. We will definitely send out the invitation. I'm sending the invitation now. So if you feel that is the need to get more engagement with us, please let us know, and we'll put you on the you and your team back on our platform to discuss more further changes or finality or suggestions or pick our brains. That's what I'm trying to say. Please do so. And the invitation is out there. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the time.
No problem. Thank you. So I just want to make a comment before I bring up the next our next invited guest. So under FACE, especially the chancellor, under this administration, Kanita, Christina, those we work with real well. This administration has been very more responsive and a little softer towards the parents as a whole. And I can only speak for CPAC, right? But we have seen a change or a big difference. We're seeing the teams here and engaging the parents and asking for feedback, being responsive to questions that are asked. So I just want to say thank you. And we want to make sure to continue this partnership with this administration going forward. There's a lot of issues, a lot of times we don't see eye to eye, but talking it out, keeping the dialogue, a conversation, making sure you're continually engaging the parents and the families and the scholars of this great city, New York City Public Schools. It's awesome, and looking forward to a more further productive year, school year. So thank you for that. We, like this morning, we have a whole bunch of teams of individuals, so we could put faces of those who doing the background work and who we can reach out to for solutions and questions and issues that we may have. So thank you for that as well. So at this time, I'm going to share my slide because I did a slide specially for Joseph. Okay, that was admissions. We did DIT, Chancellor. Okay, so yeah, before I introduce, so Anthony Settle's not here, so this month we're not doing Settle's Not So Secret Gems, but next month we're going to continue the conversation with finances with Mr. Settle. But who we have today is Joseph Dimitri, the Senior Account Executive, Arena Group Sales from the Barclays Centers. And he's going to present on fundraising ideas for opportunities for our PA, PTAs, and President's Councils.
Thank you so much.
So Joseph, you have the floor.
Appreciate the introduction. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Randy, for allowing me to present to everyone. A bit about me before we get started. I grew up in Brooklyn, born and raised through the public school system, attended PS 205, went to IS 96, New York State High School, and have been with Barclays Center since 2012. So it's a pride that I take in being able to share these programs that we have in order to impact the kids at your backyard arena. So I'm going to share my screen now. So we're going to discuss today the Brooklyn Nets and how we can provide opportunities through ticket sales in order to fundraise and provide different opportunities for students, staff, and everyone involved around the city. The unique opportunities and programs that we have are some of the best out there. And it starts with fundraising, something that we're all, looking for with respect to PTAs, with respect to different initiatives within the school. And that can take place all through ticket sales and live entertainment. With that also, we have opportunities to reward with respect for your faculty and staff, and being able to do potentially an outing to a game or an event here at Barclays Center with the variety of events that we have, from basketball to family shows and more. And then we have our field trips, which are wonderful opportunities to come out during the day for the kids to come out through educational programs that we have created, as well as family programs such as Disney on Ice, which is coming in January. And I'll speak to that more in a bit. With regards to fundraising, this allows you to work towards your goals while building memories, of course, for these kids. Now that we're back to live events in full, in full mode now, through a couple of different opportunities, traditional ticket fundraisers. And what I specialize in is bringing out a group of 10 or more to the game. And what that allows you to do is receive discounted tickets and not pay any fees, allowing you for the most savings that you can for basketball, family shows, and a different group events that we have, including college basketball as well here at Barclays Center. It's available for multiple games. We have online tools such as personalized links that many of the schools have signed up for, such as Randy, Shirley, Jazzy, Aisha, with regards to a special offer that can be utilized as well. And we'll discuss that a bit more in depth as we get through. And then just a high yield fundraising program where you can impact for each ticket sold anywhere from $5 to $15 that goes back to the school. You can utilize that through ticket raffles, different auctions. Suites are available as well, and premium spaces also. Then there's other types of options where we have different club spaces with wide array of seating options that allow you to potentially bring out staff and faculty if you wanted to do maybe something around the holidays or just an appreciation night. But it goes, certainly to the kids, but also to the great teachers of this city as well. to enjoy some entertainment here at Barclays Center. There are different packages available, such as food and beverages, different hospitality spaces as well, such as our suites. What you see pictured here is our baseline club, which is a one-of-one space in the lower level that comes with food included for 2 hours. And again, all this information that's being presented is something that we'll be able to provide more in depth to everyone as well. But we have some premium destination options here at Barclays Center. Field trips, as I discussed, educational-based curriculum programs such as Sports and Career Day, which I'll speak with momentarily, exposure to just world-class events right in our backyard. As Barclays Center is, again, a short destination for many schools. There are 13 subway lines that come directly to Barclays Center in Atlantic Avenue, and just a variety. I think that's one of the keys versus, other type of entities like baseball, football. We have it all, from Nets games to family shows, and a brand new product, which is Glide. And Glide is a new skating rink that is at Brooklyn Bridge Park that has incredible views of the city that'll be opening up this month, and more to come on that. But supremely exciting opportunities for schools and different packages that could be made available. You have your educational components and how we can help. Of course, you can reward your top students, recognize your top students, and allow them to participate as well. But then that doesn't only go from the top, but those that you want to certainly motivate also through our experiences. And a couple of different ways are allowing them a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, such as what you see here. This is one of our most popular Nets experiences, which is the High Five Tunnel, which 20 kids can be on the court pregame to high-five the players as they walk out. We provide the shirts as a keepsake. They take that home. And we have a bunch of different experiences that, again, are once in a lifetime, something I never had growing up because there wasn't an arena, in fact, but really something that could be impactful and utilized in many different ways with respect to grades, attendance, behaviors, really trying to drive the students to achieve at a high level. And that includes standing in front of the players for the national anthem, different on-court experiences as well. Recognition can also be made available if you wanted to recognize anyone in your school, principals. We have opportunities there, such as what you see here, which is taking a picture with the captains of the team for the game. Many areas of focus can be utilized for that as well, including leadership, community service, different milestones. These experiences are really wonderful, including being allowed to just, again, be on the court, be recognized. The school is recognized on the Jumbotron as well. And it really provides an impactful night for all involved. Barclays Center could also be utilized for your dance programs. We have opportunities to perform on the court. If you have a chorus, an opportunity to potentially do a national anthem and sing, being able to play basketball for those that have maybe an intramural team or other teams that would like an opportunity to play on the court, that is available for rental opportunities, also including post-game as well. Something that is at the forefront is our Sports Career Education Day. This is one of our field trip components. The first session is going to be November 30th. There are 2 different dates that are going to be made available. With respect to everything that I showed you, it's all revolved around ticket sales. Nothing costs extra, and we can dive into pricing, one-on-one or at a later time. But November 30th, it'll take place from 12 to 2 p.m. where sports and entertainment industry executives will be speaking to the students. And later that evening, the students will be able to come to see the Brooklyn Nets play the Charlotte Hornets. Prices start at just $25 for this experience. And again, it's all based on ticket sales to allow them to come. The only challenge, of course, would be being able to have them come to Barclays Center between those hours of 12 and 2 p.m. And that'll be for January 29th as well. We'll have executives speak to students also to just think about. It's not only about television, but it's also about, where you want to be. I grew up loving sports. I played sports as well, but I always wanted to work in sports. And that mind frame could be something installed to them right now, early from intramural, intermediate to high school. Different events that we have upcoming, as I mentioned. Of course, the Brooklyn Nets season has begun. Disney on Ice coming. The Harlem Globetrotters. We're also going to be hosting the Circus, which was just announced, returning February 20th through the 23rd during winter break, which is going to be extremely popular. It's the Barnum and Bailey Circus. Randy, who's a good friend of ours, has spearheaded our fundraising campaign and was one of the first to actually come on board with respect to many years back where we did a traditional Disney on Ice event at Barclays Center that went wonderfully. So this is a newer option. What I mentioned with the personalized links, we have a page that we create. As you can see, there's a logo here. It's really made for mobile as well, but this allows you to fundraise with no cost or obligation up front and share within your social media pages, share within your networks. It can include Brooklyn Nets games, family shows, and more. So this is an idea of what that looks like and something we can create for you as short of a turnaround as 24 hours. Thank you everyone for your time. Again, my name is Joseph Dimitri, and I'll share my contact information here as well. I know we don't have too much time for questions, but certainly I would love to schedule any one-on-ones with anyone here and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. There's one question. Is this open to elementary schools or middle to high school only?
It's all schools. It's all schools where you see a fit. So everything's tailored to, the age range, right? So K-5 might be more tailored toward family shows, where intermediate might be more tailored towards the Nets games. It all depends on what you see as a fit, but it's open for everyone. That's the best part. And the variety allows it to be fully transferable.
What do you offer for students with disabilities?
With respect to disabilities, well, we do have ADA seating for students with disabilities as well, but all students receive discounted options in the form of a group. But we make sure that we have areas where those students would be comfortable. We do have sensory rooms available as well. But we also have potentially different opportunities where that baseline club that I mentioned to you also could be a nice space, but we have ADA seating around the arena in both the lower level and the upper level, as well as being able to provide unlimited support upon entry to make it safe and enjoyable for everyone.
Okay, we got a couple of more. What about schools with 100% students with disability?
In the same light, it would be, we would work with you to see what event would be the best for the students. And we have enough seating capacity in order to provide a 1-to-1 ratio, I would say, depending on the flexibility, of course, and having multiple chaperones to have the students in a comfortable environment, depending on the space. So we could always start with the baseline club, move towards a plentiful amount of ADA sections that we have around the arena as well.
So thank you. There's one more question. Are there any programs that promote reading initiatives, and do you visit schools?
Well, we have a community relations team that visits. I'm open to, certainly visiting as well. I'm open to speaking to my story, because I'm very proud of, what I represent in terms of Brooklyn, in terms of the, the school system that, I came through as someone that aspired, to play in sports and work in sports. I've enjoyed, a very nice career here at Barclays Center. And, my goal is to continually make an impact on children and provide just opportunities for them to have experiences that really can make them take a leap forward. But certainly that could be discussed with respect to our community team and or myself or any of our team here at Barclays Center.
Awesome. I don't see any further questions. Last call.
Shirley,
Go ahead, Randy.
I just wanted to add, Joseph, can you just briefly talk about FIVO and how it works with getting the profit, the check?
Yes. So recently we had a Hot Wheels show that was on September 30th. We set up multiple FIVO links for multiple schools with respect to that show. So that allowed essentially you to share with parents and through your social media pages a special link for them to buy discounted tickets for the show, the families to take their kids out and other family as well. And actually Randy was one of our highest earners for her PTA. And again, there was no cost or obligation to sign up for this, where I don't know, Randy, if you'd like me to share, but it was fantastic. Over $800 was raised just on one event at Barclays Center. And all it took was really sharing this special link that continuously is one that we'll continue to share throughout the year. We're also home of the New York Liberty and the WNBA as well. So when you speak to 365-day programming, we have it available. So from the fall to the spring to the summer, it's really impactful And it's something that, I would encourage everyone to really just sign up for, even if it's a starter, and then potentially look into traditional options as well.
That's so great. Thank you for taking time. And yeah, I could thank Randy too, for having Mr. Dimitri Joseph coming to speak to us. So this is another great opportunity to, help our children, our scholars in the schools on academic success. Thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you again, Joseph. And thank you for, this is something that you speak when it comes to money. People are waking up now. Fundraisers and stuff. Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for the platform and allowing us the opportunity. Hope you have a great day. Thank you for the time. Pleasure.
You too. Thank you. So before we go to our next presentation, I just want to take this time to go back to doing CPAC business here. All right. All right. So everyone was sent the minutes. This is the time. Let's review the minutes for a little bit. Have any questions, concerns? Thank you, District 25. Thank you, Rachel, for reviewing it, and we updated the corrections that you caught. Thank you so much. So whenever someone is comfortable, ready to make the motion to adopt our October 12, 2023 minutes. Adriana, District 28.
I'm going to keep with the trend. Motion to adopt.
Thank you. And who will, Rosa, I see you're next. You will second that, Manhattan High Schools? Is that correct? Yep, thumbs up. Okay, thank you. All right, and we're gonna move on. So this is a mute. We already discussed, this usually happens before DIT has stretched out their transition plan. We had our conversation, so we're gonna move on. This is, I'll call it November's Parent Teacher Conferences month, right? So if you haven't been aware, help me out, Randy. Did elementary have this past, or they start this week?
Elementary was the second, middle school.
Right, yeah.
School and District
Go
7
ahead.
tonight.
Yep.
The 18th is evening for high schools, and the 17th is a half day for high schools and 6 to 12 schools.
Thank you. So this is basically parent-teacher conference night. So if you don't know, if you don't, just pay attention to that. We just wanted to to remind everyone, please be engaged. And if you can't engage your children's teachers, please make arrangements there to speak to them and make sure you keep abreast on the progress of your child or children. So updates. So capacity building, communications, Title I had their monthly meeting on Monday, since Tuesday was election day. Legislative committee and the special education committee still have to give me a schedule or dates of when they're going to hold their meetings. As a reminder, the capacity, the communication in Title I is the first Tuesdays of the month at different times. The Wellness Committee is the second Wednesday of the month, but communication went out that instead of the second Wednesday, which would have been this week, yesterday, they're holding their meeting on the 15th next week for the Wellness Committee. Okay, so the working group The A655 got like 2 more meetings before we really, go into the next phase of drafting or crafting the regulations. The Equity Working Group, I don't know, that will be the new name, but it's going to be involved with the equity. Help me out, Randy. What's the name of the
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
equity?
what you said.
Okay, so Equity Working Group is not quite going to be the same. Prior is going to a different phase, which will involve what's the equity person? Myra, what's Nora's name? What's her title? You remember?
Christina, help us out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just
Yes,
waiting for
please.
I was just waiting to be called.
No.
The equity compliance officer.
Yes, so
Nina
that's like so
Yeah.
yeah, that's so easy.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that working group is that I don't want to call it a working group, but it's reshaping, right? Based on also the new regulations of the D210. So Digital Learning and Dyslexia Task Force. When we hear from Q's division, Learning and Teaching, they're incorporating things within the literacy priority in regards to the digital learning. And we did have a brief discussion on those 2 topics. The citywide CEP template, haven't met yet for the school year. They're busy getting, the stuff, plans out, coming up with a permanent version of the monthly calendars for the DLTs and the SLTs, district leadership teams and school leadership teams. The election working group, we had the elections last year, but the working group is not meeting as collectively, but they're also having an outside, right now there's an outside independent, outside person or group that's looking into improving the elections for the next upcoming elections where we need improvement, and looking to some of the concerns that was raised in this year's CEC elections. Special Advisory Education Council, we're going to have them next month, but I have a little slide of what's, the takeaway from that advisory council. And we've talked about, again, the New York City class size working group. They're finalizing their recommendations to New York City public schools. So the takeaway from that the great advisory council. So this is like a brief summarization. The first takeaway that New York City public schools must be intentionally designed to be fully inclusive and independent. Second point is New York City public schools must take steps to reimagine general education. 3, strengthen trust between schools and families. Prioritize investments in public school programs close to students' homes that promote inclusion and result in strong student outcomes. All students require access to high-quality learning opportunities. And the last takeaway is shift mindsets, faster organization-wide, anti-ableist culture, and incorporate the perspectives of those with lived experience. And next month, the team, Q and the team, will go more in detail on how we came out with those takeaways. And this is just the start of the work. This is not the end of the work. This is like the first phase. But those were one of the main takeaways, and what the improvement going on for special education is going to be based on these 5 takeaways. So that should make all of us happy, and let's continue to be collaborative when it comes to, like we are doing now, but even more so on the education of our scholars and children. So let me see what's next. Okay, so that was our brief updates and for our business. So now, before I introduce the next individual, which is one of our own, any questions so far? Okay, so we're going to get updates from New York State. Title I cops that were not able to come on our platform, but sitting on the Title I steering committee, Our second VP, Jimmy Brown, is the Manhattan rep, and she's going to share updates regarding Title I and state information. I see you. You are unmuted, but we're not hearing you if you're speaking. We're not hearing you, Jimmy. Well, you know what? Christina, we're gonna move Dr. Melendez up. We're gonna get face updates. You see, we had like the full board. We had DC Lloyd, we had our executive director, Christina Melendez has been here all meeting, and the deputy executive director, Jesse Mojica is on here, and we explained that Anthony was unable to join us this month. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna give the floor to Dr. Melendez to give face updates, and when she's done, Jimmy should be able to come on.
Sounds good. I was following the Barclays, and Joseph is like a hard act to follow. So thank you for bringing him on the platform because he seems amazing. All of you have worked with him somehow. So I appreciate this platform as always every month, and just things like that just further confirm that like this is the place to be, and very important for all parent leaders and those on the ground. So thank you for being consistent in your meetings and for showing up and for your advocacy. There's been so many successes this past month alone, just with this team right here around making sure that we understand the needs that you have, and we are very clear that we're not getting it perfect, but you are very consistent at making sure that we do our very best to get closer to that. And I and everyone on the Chancellor's team honestly really appreciates your voice. So thank you. I wanted to start with that. I wanted to say that I want to reactivate my visits into the community, and this time I'm bringing Deputy Chancellor Lloyd. So we're gonna send out a link like I have in last year for folks to sign up and tell me, what schools make the most sense, and where do you want to be, and where should we be, so we could see things. But most importantly, it's got to be a day when we coordinate it. It's got to be a day where you can come with us and walk the space. The times we have done it has been with CC council members, and it's been very powerful to just see your communities through your eyes, because it's just a whole different way of seeing things. And as an educator for the past 20 years, I can see a school and think about a million things, but it's very different when I see it with you and through your lenses. So please, sign up. To make sure that when we coordinate that you are in fact available to come with us. So those are going to be reactivated very soon. I will send it through CPAC. We are starting career panels here, and someone like Joseph is a great example of folks that we want to participate in our schools' career panels, right? But oftentimes we have 1,800 plus schools and all these programs, right? And schools are trying to do their best to just find people in their community that can participate in these career panels. And I thought it'd be a great idea if we just started with like, how do I generate a list of folks that either work in city agencies that do really amazing things like city planning and urban planning, and just there's housing and development, and folks like Joseph, right, that work in our schools already, who are part of our communities every day, who were born and raised usually in New York City, and think about maybe joining sports, but like only see it as like being the athlete. How do we bring someone like him to say, there's a million other things you can do while still loving sports? So that is a link that I am passing through around our city agencies. I'm definitely sending to Joseph, so thank you for that connection. And then the goal is to be able to curate a list that
when you or your schools are ready to host career panels for your students, K to 12, I hope, not just limited to high school or middle school students, um, that you can use us as a resource to also invite other folks that might be on our list, that might live close to the school and can just go and commit an hour to being in conversation with our students. So that is also going to be something that we've generated some momentum around that. So hopefully by January we can take requests or support you in those spaces. So feel free to reach out. Like Shirley said, the Equity Compliance Officer has been meeting with the current Equity Council, and we've thought about together, how does the Equity Council composition look like in the future? There's going to be a pseudo election thing, but all the details are being panned out and will be on the website soon. And I will definitely make sure that folks on this platform are clear about when it comes up, so that you know and can participate in whatever ways you want if interested. Parent-teacher conferences were already stated, but please, please, please make sure to commit families to understanding that they have an option to meet in person and schedule those meetings with their teachers. They are virtual, but if you cannot make it, or if you prefer a personalized sort of conversation, that there is an opportunity to do that, and you reach out to your schools. The Deputy Chancellor sent out a letter where we really urge or encourage families to think about asking the teacher things like, where is my child in their reading development, and what are some of the things that you are doing, and what are some of the things that we can do at home to support. I am putting in the chat something that I hope folks share. It is on our website and it's translated in all the languages, but like, literacy is not just reading. I know we always think that way, but literacy is actually 4 different things. It's reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And the truth is that speaking and listening come before reading and writing, right? And so it's really, really important to spend a lot of time speaking and listening and being in conversations with our children, as a way to support the rest of the literacy development. And so that this activity that I shared on the platform here, that you all can share with your communities, provide opportunities for parents to have a point of entry, regardless of language, regardless of skill set, regardless of their own experiences with reading, to still be in support of their child's literacy development. And so wanted to make sure that we had that and we shared. And then FACE is engaging in developing a lot of the work on the ground with families that speaks to the New York City Reads priority. And so the Deputy Chancellor talked about it, and there's going to be really strong requests from all of you from our team here to really talk about, identify places in your communities that make sense to host, like literacy hubs, where there'll be books available, sort of a lot of like what the Barbershop Books nonprofit is doing in different barbershops. This program is amazing and it's growing and building. So we are thinking the same thing, but we need to leverage your understanding of what are the best places for that. So know that we're going to be tapping into you for that. We also want to build networks of parents in every district in the priority districts right now, and then plan for phase 2, where parents are engaging other parents and creating civic engagement opportunities around this idea of what is the science of reading, what does it mean to us, what can we be doing, what am I doing, and just create spaces where families can connect and talk with each other, with our support in sort of organizing and coordinating that in conversations, right? Really honoring the fact that there's a lot of expertise amongst you, and that there is a lot of different ways to support literacy, with or without books. And then we also want to create just really spend a lot of time with some subsets of parents who have the time and the energy to sort of think through and work on the science of reading components, understand them better. So all of these things are forthcoming. and we're looking to you, of course, as something Shirley says often, the boots on the ground, to really just come and support that and help us identify folks that may be interested and should be part of that. And finally, we do continue to do our PC and FLC trainings. And I think that's great and fantastic. There are things that you are experiencing or your PA and PTAs that you represent in your district that may be very unique or very clearly missing some components, right? And so if there are moments where you can identify spaces where you're like, you don't know this or you need more of that, how do you elevate that to us so that we can really provide the supports to those PCs and FLCs that are supporting those parent leaders, so that they have the capacity to do what they need to support their families. So make sure that if you have a concern or see a gap in understanding of the regs or any of that, just make sure you elevate that to us so that we can really support and build their capacity. Jesse is here. He's been away for a little bit, taking care of his family, but we are so glad he's back. And Anthony is doing an amazing, incredible, fun thing that I am not going to spoil for you, but I'm going to make sure that he shares it with you when he comes back. And as always, thank you all for having us here. We really love and appreciate this space and even the time to just share some updates.
Awesome. Thank you. Questions, comments for Face? This is your time. And while you're thinking or formulating, I want to give you a heads up. Next month, this is a new school year, so we have new members. We're going to introduce ourselves, right? We're going to save a space and we're going to introduce ourselves and speak. Maybe you could start a little bit today, but keep that in mind. Also, too, the board members, the new board members don't know, but please stay on after the meeting. We usually debrief to minimize our executive board meetings, right? So if you can, stay a little afterwards, and we'll debrief here, because usually we have 2 EBMs to prep for the meeting and then a debrief about the meeting. So please stay on. So we got okay. So we got a question. See, look, and we got getting questions for you, Christina. So regarding EIN numbers, how do you switch from old PTA to new PTA without deleting the EIN number? I could answer that, but
go ahead.
Okay, so what do you mean by new PTA? You mean a new board? Because the EIN number, which I always refer to, is our social security number. Even if we change our name, we still have the same social security number. You just have to update the record. So the EIN number stays with you. So I don't remember because a lot of stuff is coming on. Oh, yes, new board. So the EIN number doesn't change, right? Because that belongs to the organization. If you don't know what it is, you can, there's a link if you email, Randy is quick with that. Put it in the chat. You can request a copy of your EIN number if you don't have it. You could call the IRS, but you'll be on the phone for a very long time. It's faster. There you go. Faster to put it in the link, right? Request it online. Adriana, you have a question, or you want to help me answer this question?
I can help both. So calling the IRS, yes, you're going to be on hold forever, but it'll be done, and then there won't be errors. You won't have to go back. If you're on the phone with someone, they can fix it. And then I do have, I wasn't going to, but I do have a question.
Well,
I can't help myself.
Don't give me a second.
I would be really sad if you didn't. I would have felt excluded. I would have.
No,
I'm being honest.
No, give me a second, because there's some other, like, am I seeing it? Is not any other question in there besides the... Go ahead, Adriana, because the screen is moving too quickly. So let me just try to catch up and find the question. But go ahead, ask your question.
Thank you. So these events, I think it's a great idea to pull parents and members of the community, right? Because our families are not just mom and dad and the kids, right? There's grandma, there's a whole bunch of other people. I'm a little concerned, and I know that you don't mean this way, or rather I assume that you don't mean it this way, but when we're talking about engaging, and we use language like, you know, parents that have the time or the energy to put in the effort, I think that can be disheartening, and it can be discouraging, and it's not because or at least I don't think it's because it's meant to be that way, but because the understanding of what enough time, enough capacity, enough energy is can vary person to person, right? Obviously. And because of the murkiness of parent leadership, the understanding of how much time am I going to have to allot to these things? And do I have, you know, do I have enough time to now go ahead and do this thing? So I just want to be very aware when we're having that part of the conversation. And the event itself, right? What is it going to look like? What is it that we're asking parents and families and other community members to engage with? Is it going to be, if the CEC is hosting it, is it going to be the CEC and the chancellor sitting up on a stage, taking some questions from audience members, reviewing specific pieces of the presentation or specific pieces of the data or the information that's being shared without, you know, enough time to properly and thoroughly like go through all of the information, answer everyone's questions. And I think that component is extremely important, right? We have the chancellor on today for 17 minutes. And that is not enough time here. And I assure you that 1 hour in every district, if you are able to do one school per district, is not enough. And while I appreciate the efforts and I hope that it continues, it's not enough. If you're asking us to be engaged and involved, especially when it comes to literacy, we need that to be reciprocated. And if that doesn't look like all of us just sitting at a table and having this conversation, you know, with a 2 to 3 hour window, then with all due respect, I don't want any part of it. Because if it's just y'all talking at us, we can read what you post on the DOE's website, you know? If it's an actual conversation, we need dedicated time, we need dedicated attention, and it needs to happen more than once, you know, offer a daytime, evening, weekend option at a location that is accessible completely by public transportation. There is parking in the neighborhood. If it's possible, it'd be great for you guys to offer childcare, offer a meal, right? We're asking, we need to give.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Christina, before you answer, Christina, Dr. Melendez, I have to recover. So we did have a schedule. We had last year was a little wonky year, right? We had bi-monthly meetings. You came on later in the school year. We had met with the chancellor off our monthly meetings, right? Because we all understand we cannot discuss everything and actually, you know, advise and give comments and suggestions and have real frank conversation that is needed. So we did have a schedule of bi-monthly meetings. We actually met with Christina and Kanita. I'm using first names, but we're familiar here. About this very topic that you're raising, to mend our relationship back, or where it fell off the side, because we did meet like 3 times and then it just kind of fell off, right? We all, and that's why I had made the comment about being very appreciative. We're getting answers from the teams and more collaboration. So the last piece, or cherry on top, I would say, is having those conversations. If it's not the chancellor himself, with his cabinet, who's actually, you know, I'm not saying the chancellor don't work, but they're doing the work, right? In the specific divisions, too, those are the individuals to go to really have these conversations, because they're actually doing the work. But yes, but to mend that relationship with Central as a whole, we are on that path, you know. And having that conversation yesterday, we could see today everybody from every division. It wasn't just that one particular speaker, but most of the team showed up. So we're starting to go on that right path. And yes, conversations can't be all done on this platform. It's just not feasible, right? This is just our general monthly meetings. Again, we all know this. The real work is done behind the scenes, right? Not here on this platform, but the work is behind the scenes. So when we had our conversation with DIIT, 2 other meetings, it was off, off here because this is not the platform for that. But I really appreciate all that. I know you wanted an answer for Christina, but I just wanted to make sure that we said, we are all on the same page. We had this conversation with Kenita and Christina yesterday. Go ahead,
Can I
Christina.
just add this one thing? I think there's first, I want to say language matters, Adriana. So thank you. And I heard you, received it, and it's very clear. And I apologize because that's, to your point, not the intention of my message, but the impact for sure. And therefore, I can own that. There are 2 things that are happening, or maybe I am understanding as 2 different things, right? There's this like idea of time with the chancellor that Shirley was describing and talking about, that she's right in everything she said, and moving forward, how are we thinking about that differently? The part I was sharing on the platform earlier was really about when we think about New York City Reads as a priority, and we have these priority districts that have been identified, FACE and the team here that I am so lucky to lead is going to be in your districts, really convening civic engagement sessions that are led, created, and curated by the parents in that district. Right. So the idea is to address some of the things that you are actually saying. Who is doing this and how are we doing it? Right. So if District 28 says we need meetings that look like this and are thinking intentionally about this, then District 28 is going to create an event that really is focused on a topic in literacy or the science of reading, with parents, for parents, by parents. And that is the goal of those things. And I definitely wasn't clear. And so there's 2 parts to that, right? There's a part to that around planning the event, and then there's a part to that about actually participating in the event, right? And so when I talked about time, it's like, where do you fall in your many things that everyone is doing on this platform, plus this? When I think about time, I think about, where do you want to spend your time? How much of it can you commit to this? Because there are a lot of parts, and that we need all of you to make it all of those spaces need to be filled and led by parents in order for them to be successful. And that we fundamentally believe that. And so that's what I meant when I was saying about time. That's not the impact when it was communicated. And so, but those are 2 separate things, I think. And I don't want to conflate them, because there's what Shirley was saying and what you may have been talking about as well. And then what I was saying was more about these independent civic engagements for parents, by parents, around the science of reading, around literacy, folks really just coming together and talking with each other about, like, what do you do and how do you do it? And like, I feel a way about engaging in that with my kid, and like, what's going on in your school and how do they talk about it, and how are we talking about it, and how can we support, right? So that's the work that we want to do with you. And so I don't anticipate chancellors, I don't anticipate teachers, I don't anticipate principals, unless the community, parents, families are like, that's what we want, right? I do anticipate, like, we're going to have a session on storytelling and the importance of that, because that's a valuable resource that we have in our families, right? That we can tell stories about the past, that we hold on to culture and traditions and pass them on in that way. And so thinking about and elevating those kinds of things. So those are the goals there. And so when I think about time, I think about, like, that's a lot of work for everyone. And so, hey, where do you fall in that? And some families are going to be very good at saying, I want to participate. I am not ready to do all the planning for it just yet, but can provide some sort of feedback in other ways. And that's why I'm, like, here saying that aloud, so that we can think through who is going to do the planning in our communities and who's going to do, who's just not just who wants to participate in the event, but doesn't necessarily have all the other opportunities in there. And how do we create opportunities for people to give feedback in a variety of ways, not just sitting in a meeting and talking about it. So that's the nuance. I do, Shirley, if it's okay, want to answer some of the other questions I saw.
Do you have a time? Because I want to do the last topic first and come back to the questions. I do see them. Do you have to go?
It's just like 2 minutes, I think.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay?
Go ahead.
The PAPTA presidents in PC meetings, in PCPDs, PCPDs are really about how do we engage and build their toolbox so that they can continue to bring families into the school. It's kind of a little bit different than PAPTAs and what they need. Usually it's about bylaws, regulations, clarity around that. What I am saying is if there is a need for that and it's not being filled because there's a capacity, there's a gap, there's an issue, you don't have a PC, you don't have an FLC, you don't have a place to turn to, or folks are new, please feel free to elevate that to us, because if that was a unique situation, or there's a borough that's sort of struggling with a bunch of new PCs, right? Then how do we build their capacity? And of course, we want that information from the PTA presidents that are bringing that up, or from the president councils that are bringing that up or are aware of the gaps, right? So we want to make sure that we are working collectively. So that's that. And then, so it's not that I don't want you there, it's just that I don't think that's what you want to do. Who do you report violations of confidentiality to regarding OML violations? I think it just depends who the confidentiality, who is doing the violation. It will determine where does that go, right? But ultimately, or in general, confidentiality investigations are supposed to be confidential. It's part of the idea of making sure that we allow everyone due process. And so if those things are being violated, depending on who's doing the violation, we can talk about where that complaint or concern will go. And who do we report OML violations to? Again, it depends on what body, right? So SLTs are subject to OML and CECs are subject to OML. And so we want to make sure that we understand who, but definitely you can start with us and then we can direct you to where it needs to be and provide points of clarity for the folks that need the clarification.
DOE staff. They got DOE staff. DOE staff is the question, is not specific which New York City public school staff it is, but it's DOE staff, not parents or
I would
employees. Yeah.
So SLTs would go to the principal and the superintendent, right? Those are the folks that sort of are in line with SLTs. But of course, again, if I heard it and you gave it to me, I would be more than happy to provide some points of clarity around OML. And Dr. Melendez, thank you for the reply. I'm referring to creating workshops focused on relationships between PCs and PTAs. I think that is a great suggestion that we can take back to PCs and do a workshop just on that, right? Like how does a PC, and we struggle a lot with that here. PCs are supervised by principals, and so it makes it a little bit difficult sometimes to be clear about, or for us, for PTA presidents or executive boards to really feel supported or trust and comfortable. So we talk about building trust and building community, and what does that look like with our PCs? Again, we don't supervise PCs. We do provide some of the training and supports because we hear it from you, right? We hear you all and your concerns, and we want to make sure that somebody is providing them with the information that we hear, in the hopes of being more responsive to your needs. But I think I get it, Caroline, and I can definitely get back with the team and revisit some of those trusts and building relationships PDs that we've already done with PCs and see what we can do there.
Okay, thank you so
that
much.
Was everybody.
I believe so. Let's go back to, let's try this again. So again, with updates regarding Title I and New York State initiatives, Ms. Brown.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to start with PACs. All our Title I schools, including the high schools, should have a PAC. And if they haven't, the principal should have an annual Title I meeting. And with that annual Title I meeting, he should give the date when they're going to have the PAC. And they should have an election for a PAC chair or alternate and a recording secretary. And in the process of doing this, by November 17th, they should have already established their 1% budget for the parents and talked about it and bringing it back. And it's ongoing through March 1st. So you should have your budget up and running on how you want to spend the money, and it should be shared with the parents. And the same applies with the DPACs. So when we have the PACs, each borough, each district, all their PACs that are Title I should meet at the district office along with high schools so they can form the district DPAC, because the information need to be assimilated there. And they also too have to have an election for a president, for a chair, an alternate, and recording secretary. And one thing that would be good, because since we have to include high schools, it would be good if that there were co-presidents, co-chairs, co-alternates, and recording secretaries, one from the elementary and middle school, and the one from the high school. So this way here, the high school person can take that information back to the high schools when they meet at high schools to give the update on Title I and taking place from that.
Jimmy, before you move on, I just want to make it clear, the principal at the school level is not doing the elections.
No,
right?
the PTA president.
And also elections are not happening at the annual Title I. They could precede it at the annual Title I meeting, which is held by the principal or his designee. I just want to make sure those is clear with that as well. So thank you, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Okay. Could you go to the next slide? When we were talking about, you hear them talk about the accountability and the ways that they were doing it. And they, based on our 21 to 22 results, this is how they started out to know what the school year would be like for 22, 23. And they, as they rebuilding it, they showing based on 22, 23 results, that's how they get the school year 23, 24. And the same is based on our 23, 24. This is how they're going to move forward for 24, 25 school year. And they're reimagine it for 24, 25 to get 25, 26. And this is all based on indicators that they've been using. They're talking about the core subject information when we're talking about elementary and middle school, and chronic asceticism. And that we see that's also the same thing in high schools. We have the issue with chronic asceticism, so they're looking at that as well as the ELP and our core performances. And they're going to begin, as they said, we're going to talk with stakeholders. They're going to clarify the asceticism, clarification about chronic asceticism and how they can go about doing it better. The next slide. We were talking about, when they were talking about the science of reading. This is one of the things that they were talking about with the science of reading, where it talks about the effectiveness and equitable instructions. And they're talking about it in a cultural, responsive substance. And it says like welcoming environment, want to know how the students feel and reflect that and understand them and the value, and academically rigorous, intellectual, challenging, and adaptive to the students' needs, and inclusive assessments. And this is done through the next slide. This will be done through 3 strategies on how they're doing the literacy initiatives. And this has to do with the science of reading. And when it comes to the instructional support, They will be doing that through the MTSS 1 and the academics and logistics demands and the learning standards and the P12 guidance. And this here is a culturally responsive sustaining education. And this is their strategy in implementing the reading process. And for strategy 2, which is the educator support, they're going to have education preparation programs. They're going to have educator certification and continuing teacher and leader education, which is a CTLE. And this will be done through the Office of Policy and Higher Education. And they're going to work collaboratively with the stakeholders, including those in the higher education and P to 12. And these are going to be some of the state requirements. And the goal is to review it to ensure that teachers are prepared to provide effective reading instructions to all students that is grounded in research and evidence-based practices. And in strategy 3, it's family and collaborative partnerships. And this is going to be done through the New York State Education. We have Hunter Institute. We have the New York Department of Education, which is New York City Public Schools. We have teacher centers. We have education partnerships. This is going to be done through a collaboration of people, and there will be parents involved with this so that they can have the family input when it comes to Title I. And this is the update.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
That's it.
Thank you so much for bringing us updates. Anybody has any questions? If Ms. Brown can't answer, she'll bring it back and come back with the answers for you. In regards, or if you're still thinking about it, I just want to go to, we're approaching, I don't like going over time. So I'm just going to share I stopped sharing. Share the screen while you're thinking about it. We went through that. So our next scheduled meeting is December 14th. It's virtual. For Saturday is Veterans Day. So happy Veterans Day to all those who serve, those who serving. Thank you so much. And for those who celebrate Thanksgiving, day of giving thanks. Every day we should be giving thanks, but enjoy your holiday because it means that we don't have school, right? Or our children don't have school. So enjoy the holidays, enjoy your weekend. Thank you for coming here. And the meeting is not quite over because we want, before last calls for questions, otherwise someone makes a motion to bring this meeting to an adjournment. District 31, Melissa?
I'm sorry. I just had a question for Jimmy, just to clarify. If the schools do have a Title I chair and they haven't had the election, should they reach out to the district chairs to get assistance to facilitate those elections?
They should be going to the district, and the district superintendent or his designee will be the ones that will conduct the district PAC elections.
I was not speaking of the district PAC, but I'm talking about the individual PACs for the school. Should the district PAC chair also help with? Okay.
No, it would be, according to the protocols, it should be the PA or the PTA president that will conduct the election.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, those who's conducting the elections for the PACs is the PA, the association of that school is conducting, and is designated the president. But if the president is unable to, is anyone on the executive board will conduct those elections. And if you can't push comes to shove, then it's the president's council is going to help assist on those elections.
Yeah. Rosa has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Rosa.
Oh, I was just gonna say thank you for giving me the floor. I put a couple of updates in the chat because I have a meeting like 3 minutes ago and would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a second?
A second, Bronx High Schools.
Thank you, Bronx High Schools. So thank you for everyone for coming. Thank you for everybody who participate via verbally or in the chat. Remember, this is your meetings. Thank you so much. The meeting is now adjourned at 12:33. Have a good weekend, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. And board members, please stay if you can. Thank you. So we're going to stop the live stream.